Thwack. A sharp slap from a man's hand sends my frail body crashing down against the wall. I close my eyes, feeling the sting on my cheek intensify. Men sure know how to hit hard. I taste the salty tang of blood in my mouth. Summoning courage, I open my eyes slightly and see Alan's back retreating. This can only mean one thing: today's lesson is over. The door closes behind him, utterly silent and devoid of emotion, as if it wasn't him who lost control 5 minutes ago and used me as his punching bag once again. I need to get up, wash my face, apply ointment to my new bruises, cry out the tears I hold back in front of my husband, and accept the fact that, once more, I became a silent fool who can't defend herself. I had only myself to blame for my situation. In college, I fell madly in love with the stylish heartthrob Alan Foreman, who effortlessly seduced female students. These girls melted before Alan, making it easy for him to take each new beauty to bed and then discard her for his next girl. My story was different. I quietly cherished my love for Alan, patiently waiting for him to notice me. And he did. How could he not? Perhaps it's vain, but I always stood out with my unique appearance. Unlike the others who jumped into Alan's bed, I wanted him to chase me. I aimed to conquer him, to make him mine forever. How foolish I was. But my seemingly perfect plan worked. Alan couldn't stand being refused by someone he fancied. So, after my initial rejection, he started pursuing me persistently. He didn't know how to court a girl properly since none had demanded it before. His typical strategies, like fancy restaurant invites or lavish bouquets, failed to impress me. Finally, realizing his efforts were futile, he went all in and gifted me a luxurious solo trip to the Maldives. Such a gesture couldn't be ignored, and I eagerly accepted the journey. My single mother was baffled by how I ended up with a boyfriend like Alan, who could afford such extravagant gifts. When she learned Alan Foreman was the son of businessman Charles Foreman, she nearly fainted. "Daughter, what are you thinking? Where is the Foreman family, and where are we?" Confident and headstrong, I replied. "Don't you believe in me, Mom? Soon Alan Foreman will be at my feet, devoted like a puppy, ready to do my bidding." "Oh, daughter. My heart tells me you're on the wrong path." If only I had known how right she would be. A mother's heart senses trouble first. At first, Alan was fiercely protective, ready to fight anyone who looked my way. But in our 5th year, when I started dreaming of a wedding dress, I unexpectedly became pregnant. At that moment, Alan lost interest in me. One day, he grabbed me by the elbow in the university corridor, pulled me aside, and hissed. "Listen, babe. We had fun, but I'm not planning on being a father or a husband. So here's the deal, I'll give you money for an abortion, but no one, especially my dear father, must know. Got it?" I was scared. "Agreed?" he asked. "I'll think about it." "Think fast." Refusing to give up, I went to Alan's father, known for his conservative views and influence over his son. After getting past his security, I sat down, curled into a tearful ball, and told him everything with fake tears. He thought for a moment and called someone in the hallway. "Bring me that scoundrel, now." When a pale Alan entered and saw me, his father barked. "Silence. Not a word. I won't ask how this happened, but I will not allow a Foreman grandchild to grow up in obscurity. You will marry her, understood?" "But Dad," Alan began. I said, "That's final. Or prepare to be disinherited. Learn to take responsibility for your actions." Expecting a baby in a wedding, I was happy, hoping it would rekindle Alan's love. Despite his father's threats of disinheritance, Alan continued seducing university girls and paid little attention to me. Naively, I believed he would eventually love me and our child. My mother, sensing this marriage would ruin my life, refused to accept that I was about to marry a millionaire's son. She shook her head, ignoring my praises of Alan. On our honeymoon, Alan showed his true colors. On the first day, he got drunk and forced himself on me, ignoring my severe morning sickness. Fastening his pants, he smirked. "What did you expect, babe? This is just the beginning." Grabbing my face painfully, he warned, "Don't you dare tell my father, or you'll regret it." Though his threats were empty, I kept silent. I was afraid. Alan and I didn't live badly. He took me to restaurants, gave me jewelry, and was sometimes kind and caring. I got used to life as a wealthy man's wife. His father, Charles, observing our family bliss, gave Alan a job in his company. We lived in a large family mansion with a full staff of cooks, maids, and assistants. In my 6th month of pregnancy, my mother suddenly passed away. The stress caused premature labor, and our baby couldn't be saved. Overwhelmed with grief, I went to Charles and told him I wanted a divorce. I believed my mother's death was due to my marriage to Alan, a thought that tormented me and ultimately took my child too. Charles summoned Alan and asked, "What's happening that your wife wants a divorce?" "All is fine, I don't know what's gotten into her." Alan replied, "In the Foreman family, there have never been divorces. Don't disgrace me. I taught you better. I don't want to hear about a divorce again, or you're both out." I understood Charles. He cherished family values and demanded the same from us. Alan and I stayed together for 7 years. During this time, Charles handed over all his affairs to Alan, seeking peace and quiet. Alan managed well, being his father's true son. However, he sometimes lost his temper, showing worsening character traits. Charles often protected me from Alan's outbursts. When Charles passed away, the day after his funeral, I demanded a divorce from Alan. I couldn't stay with him any longer. I regretted not heeding my mother's warnings. I wanted to return to old apartment, which Alan had forgotten about, and I secretly rented it out to a family. Alan grabbed my throat and slowly said, "No way, dear. You're not going anywhere. I promised my dying father I wouldn't betray our family traditions. The Foreman family has, and will always have, a flawless reputation. You'll have to stay with me and endure." My life became a nightmare. In public, we were the perfect couple. Alan took me to events and restaurants. But in private, I silently covered my bruises and endured. I became numb, accepting this as normal. My inner self screamed in pain, but I feared change. I was codependent, much like the wives of alcoholics or addicts. My only friend, Davina, whom Alan tolerated for some reason, would see my bruises and say, "Stella, he'll kill you someday. Why do you let him humiliate you?" But she couldn't understand, only someone who had been through it could. Alan would hit me for anything: too bright makeup, the wrong dress, a smile he didn't like, or even looking at one of his business partners. After events, he would force himself on me, painfully and humiliatingly, then begin the discipline. He always hit where bruises wouldn't show. Tonight, he hit my face because I laughed too loudly with a partner's secretary. He left, likely to relax with the guys. I had no idea how to stop this. I wanted to resist, but Alan was stronger, and I feared he'd severely hurt me. I went to our room, applied ointment to my bruises, and iced my cheek. Why did his abuse leave me so cold, as if I didn't care what he did to my body? Alan came home late, and I pretended to sleep. I'd stopped crying from his beatings long ago, but now tears flowed endlessly onto my pillow. Why did he treat me this way? Because I once wanted a rich husband and manipulated him into marriage, thinking a child would bind him to me? I hadn't known Alan was a sadist who would trap me in a golden cage. By morning, I made an important decision: I would escape from this house and my husband, hiding somewhere he couldn't find me. Once I tried, I decided to go to Davina's and stay with her for a couple of days to figure out what to do next. Of course, it was a foolish idea. Alan found me so quickly that I didn't even expect it. And of course, I was sure it wasn't Davina's fault at all. She was the only person I could trust. When my husband showed up at her place, I immediately knew he knew everything about my intentions. He looked at me grimly and said, "Let's go home." So, I followed him. Even after Davina stood up for me and threatened to call the police on Alan. Without looking back, he reached out, grabbed her by the throat, and said, "Try it. Just for fun. Call them, silly, you won't succeed. Let her go, Alan." I cried. "You're a monster. Let her go." He released her, grabbed me, and dragged me along. At home, he didn't make a scene, he just paced the room, occasionally throwing sharp glances at me. "Is something bothering you about your life?" he asked. "Bothering me?" I laughed in his face. "Do you think this can be called life, Alan? What did you want?" He raised his voice. "You wanted to marry me, you got it. Wanted to live a comfortable life, here you have everything best. I don't deny you anything, you do nothing around the house, just run around shopping malls and fitness clubs. And I give you all this, absolutely reliably. And for that, I take only the opportunity to relieve tension after work occasionally. You're taking my health for it, Alan. You'll kill me someday. I'm doing everything carefully," he smirked. "You need to treat your aggression, Alan, otherwise it will end very badly someday. I have complete control over myself," he said and left the room. Since then, he assigned a guard to me who followed me everywhere. Every time I left the house, he appeared as if out of nowhere and accompanied me. I constantly brought up the topic of divorce, but Alan didn't want to listen. His only argument was the traditional family values he cherished. On this escape, I resolved to do so because I suddenly realized that Alan wanted to drive me to suicide. So that I wouldn't endure it and do it, and he would then remain a miserable widower. I regretted not insisting on my desire to work. Life could have been more fulfilling. But I wouldn't have been allowed to do so. In Charles's family, it was always believed that women don't work, they take care of the home. They wouldn't even allow me that. This mansion was never truly my home. And now, having decoded my husband's intentions, I understood that it would only get worse. I didn't want to die at all. So I had to muster my dignity from rock bottom and make decisions. Margaret, an elderly woman, worked at Foreman's house. She was a housekeeper. We weren't close, Alan always made sure I didn't associate with unnecessary people. But many times, I caught her sympathetic glances and realized she knew all about my bruises and Alan's sadism. My husband trusted her greatly and treated her with great kindness for her loyalty to the family. It was to her that I decided to turn with my request. Of course, I was taking a risk, but I knew for sure she wouldn't betray me to Alan. There were no cameras in our room, so I called her in. Upon entering, she looked at me with a questioning gaze. "Do you need anything, Stella?" she asked. She glanced at my bruised hands, which I purposely exposed, and added, "Perhaps something's bothering you, any complaints? I'll fix them very quickly." "No," I said. "Margaret, I need your help. I'm always here to help, you know how I feel about you." "Yes, and I greatly appreciate that. But I really need your help now." I paused, unsure how to say what I was about to say. "Margaret, tell me, is the back gate in the depths of the garden alarmed?" The woman fell silent, but from her expression, I understood she understood what I was getting at. "No," she said. "Everyone forgot about it. It's locked, right?" "Of course. I need that key." She looked at me with a strange expression, sending shivers down my spine. I quickly imagined her reaching out to Alan, who would rush over and make me pay for it dearly. "I understand you," she suddenly said. "I hear everything. I'm sorry I can't stand up for you when these things happen. I'd lose my job then, and I really need it. My granddaughter needs expensive treatment, she's alone with me, her parents died in a car accident, and she's disabled. You don't have to apologize. I understand you. But I can't live like this anymore, you must understand," I replied. "Alan will still find you. He has connections everywhere. I will leave. I said. To a distant village where no one, not even him, will find me. Just help me, Margaret. I can't bear his abuse and aggression anymore. When you came to our house, Stella, I immediately knew that this marriage would not work out. Forgive me. Can you help me then? I asked hopefully. She hesitated, then replied. If we simply take the keys, we'll put the gardener in trouble, and Alan will fire him. We need to come up with something else. The keys are in the drawer in the staff room. It's easy to take them, but they'll remember if you disappear. So, I'd better make you a duplicate. While Alan is away on his business trip, he'll be back tomorrow. I need to leave this house. The main problem is that I won't be able to just walk out of the mansion, as the entrance is right opposite the guard's booth near the gates. Fortunately, the windows of our room on the second floor face the opposite side, so I can descend using the long thick rope I've already prepared. Then I'll have to get to the gate I talked about with Margaret. The main thing is not to be noticed. This time, Alan will probably expect me to run to Davina again, but I'll be more careful. My friend won't know that I've run away from my husband. I acted wisely when I didn't spend the money tenants paid me for renting the apartment. Those funds will be enough for me for a while, and then I'll see how to live on. I eagerly await Margaret's return. Finally, she enters and closes the door behind her. She hands me a large key and asks when I plan to leave this house. She says she wants to help me get down. All day I sit in my room, thinking about what else I have to do. I've packed my backpack. There are very few things and they are very basic. I want to leave here as I came, and I came practically without anything. I choose dark clothes, a blue sweatshirt, black jeans, comfortable sneakers, and put black sunglasses in my backpack. Now the most important thing is my hair. I can easily be recognized by it. My gorgeous curly red hair always delighted those around me. In the bathroom, I mix the black dye, and soon I look at myself and don't recognize myself at all. The color suits me. I take the scissors and cut off the length strand by strand. I lie down to rest a bit. At night, I hear a quiet knock on the door. It's Margaret. She quietly enters the room. I tie the rope around my waist, wind the other end around a massive bedside table. When I descend, Margaret will untie the rope and throw it to me. I slowly start to descend. Every muscle in my body is tense. Margaret looks down. After a few minutes, she throws me the rope. I wind it up, put it in my backpack, wave to her, and head towards the gate. The key squeaks in the lock, and it terrifies me. Surely someone from the security is awake now, and hearing these suspicious sounds, they'll want to check where they're coming from. Finally, the path to freedom is open. I pull the gate towards me, it opens, I slip through, and quietly close the heavy door behind me. Finally. Freedom. I really hope I can go so far away that you'll never find me, Alan. To leave and start a new life. I completely forgot how freedom smells. It's this slightly intoxicating scent of the unknown, mixed with the spicy aroma of upcoming adventures. I'm not afraid at all of what lies ahead. Emerging from the dense forest behind the house, I reach the highway. I need somewhere to spend the night, but all I see around are mansions similar to the foreman's. Luckily, I spot an old car in the distance and decide to flag it down. They give me a ride to the city center. First thing I do is withdraw all the money from my card. Now, I need to find a place to stay. I decide to look for a small hotel. Luck is on my side as I find a room available right away. What surprises me most is how exceptionally clean the room is. It's strange, I had different expectations for places like this. There's a small bouquet of flowers on the bedside table. I bury my nose in it, familiar scent, just like the ones Mom used to grow. I happily collapse onto the clean sheets and instantly fall asleep. I manage to get a good 5 hours of sleep, and for the first time in many years, I wake up with a smile. First order of business is to get rid of my phone, which I do as soon as I leave the hotel. I need to make one more stop before heading to the bus station. I go to the cemetery, I must say goodbye to Mom. Her familiar face is engraved on the white marble. My heart aches with a sense of injustice and irreversible loss. My dear, I whisper, leaning towards the monument, if only you knew how right you were. Forgive me, Mom, your foolish daughter. Time is of the essence, the sooner I leave the city, the better. I realize that trains and planes are out of the question for me, so I opt for buses. They don't require a passport to buy a ticket. I decide to change routes a few times, but initially, I'll head to the neighboring city. I put on a baseball cap and dark glasses. I purchase a bus ticket departing in 15 minutes. Climbing the steps, I take a seat by the window, pretending to fall asleep. But behind my lowered lashes, I scan the bus, then glance out the window. Here comes an elderly couple towards the bus, then a group of teenagers with backpacks. And a policeman, accompanied by a few others. Really? This can't be right. Alan isn't even supposed to be back from his business trip yet. My heart pounds loudly in my chest as I lower my head further to avoid anyone seeing my face. The policeman climbs a couple of steps and starts inspecting the passengers. What's going on? The driver asks. I'm departing in 2 minutes. I'm looking for someone, the policeman replies. Do you have a warrant or something? Don't hold up my route. Oh, forget it, forget it. I'm leaving, the policeman says irritably, and exits. The doors close, the bus moves, and I exhale with relief. So, who the policeman was looking for and those people with him at the bus station will remain just that, a mystery to me. I only feel calm when we leave the city, so I decide to take a nap. I wake up 6 hours later, closer to the evening, as we arrive in the neighboring town. I head to the nearest park, where couples stroll in the twilight, children laugh, and adults converse leisurely. They live simple lives, content with little, yet happy. Maybe they have problems too, but still, they're happy. Why didn't I appreciate this before? Why did I chase a different kind of life? It's too late to reach my planned destination today, so I have to spend the night in this town and catch a train tomorrow morning, followed by a bus. In the park, I buy coffee and a huge burger, sit on a bench, and feel absolutely happy too. The burger tastes delicious, the coffee strong and sweet, and I'm captivated by this feeling of devotion to the unhurried life. In the morning, I buy a train ticket, almost an hour's ride away. Upon arrival, I change my plan, deciding to take one bus first, then transfer to another, hoping to confuse any traces to where I intend to settle. I chose the small town of Joytown carefully. It has few inhabitants, a farm for potential work, beautiful nature with forests, a river, and a lake, reportedly an excellent spot for fishing. I board an old bus. I didn't think they still ran these. I feel myself dozing off. Well, it's a good time for a nap. And I start to drift away. As evening approaches, we finally arrive in Joytown. It's a small town with lots of greenery, forests, and houses resembling gingerbread cottages. What next? I walk uncertainly down the street, not knowing what to do or who to turn to regarding a place to stay. Finding temporary accommodation is my priority right now. When I decide to knock on the first door I see, I'm suddenly hailed. Hey, sweetheart, are you looking for something? I turn to the sound of the voice. A plump woman in a straw hat sits in the garden, comfortably settled in a rocking chair in the shade of a tree. Hello. I approach her. Could you tell me if anyone here is renting out a house? She chuckles and extends her hand. I'm Ida. Who are you? And what are you doing here? I'm from the city. Just came here to relax. But I need accommodation. Of course, not for free. Well, relaxing is good. Okay, let me tell you where you can rent a house. But promise me you'll visit old Ida. I love meeting new people. So, look, at the end of the street, there's a house with brick columns and brown gates. That's where Doug lives. His house on the neighboring street is vacant. If he agrees, he'll rent it to you. Thank you, I say to her. And I'll definitely visit you, especially since I don't know anyone here. I quickly make my way to the gates described by Ida, knock on the door, and hear a dog barking in the yard. Soon, a grumbling voice is heard. Coming, coming, who's knocking? The door opens, and I see a funny old man with bushy eyebrows and long mustaches. He looks at me suspiciously and asks, "What do you want?" "Hello. Are you Doug?" I ask softly. "Well, if I am, then what?" He folds his arms across his chest. "I was told you're renting out a house. Do you have money?" he asks. "Well, of course. I'll pay in advance." "Well, all right." He waves his hand. "The house is just sitting there anyway, so I'll rent it to you." He names a reasonable price, and I promise to pay him for 2 months in advance after I see the house. He leads me to the next street. The house he shows me suits me perfectly, small, bright, with a kitchen and 2 rooms furnished with everything I need. "This is perfect," I say. "It's a very nice house." "Well, then live here," he says, brightening up. "Do you know how to light a fireplace?" I have to admit that I've never lit a fireplace before, so kind Doug shows me how to do it. Finally, he leaves after receiving 2 months' rent from me, and I enjoy the peace and quiet. Later, I decide to take a walk to the store to buy groceries. My God, I've never lived like this before. What if it doesn't work out? I've always lived with someone and depended on someone, my mother, my husband, my father-in-law. What will come of this newfound independence? I struggle with the stubborn door handle of the store, but suddenly a strong male hand opens the door from behind me. Startled, I let out a little scream. Did I scare you? It's a tall man with blonde hair and gray eyes. Are you new here? Yes, thank you, I say, entering the store. Right now, I don't want to talk to any young men. I grab all the essentials in the store and head to the checkout. Hi, I haven't seen you before, the cashier says to me. Where did you come from? Hello, I just arrived. How much do I owe you? I pay and leave the store with 2 large bags, heading home. At home, I make myself some sandwiches, pour a cup of tea, and pick out a book, settling into bed. The town is enveloped in twilight. Lights come on in the windows of nearby houses, and I realize I haven't thought about Alan all day. My thoughts drift to my carefree childhood. I used to be different back then. What changed? Why did I stop appreciating the simple things and start chasing materialistic goals? And what did it cost me in the end? Frayed nerves and a bruised body. I look at the bruises on my arms and suddenly feel a wave of self-pity. This pity makes me bury my face in the pillow and cry softly. In the morning, my gloomy mood is gone. The sun is so warm and welcoming that I get up with a smile and head to the kitchen. I open the window wide and prepare breakfast. After eating, I busy myself with household chores, dusting the old furniture, mopping the floors, and admiring the results of my work like a child. In the afternoon, I head back to the store. As I browse the shelves, a surprised voice suddenly calls out from behind me. Stella. It feels like I'm trapped in a never-ending nightmare. How else can I explain the coincidence of running into my old classmate in an unknown village, thousands of miles away from home? Dustin. Not him. You must be mistaken, I say quietly and quickly walk away. Dustin is stunned for a moment, then runs after me, grabbing my arm. Stella, it's you. Leave me alone. I pull my hand away. You're mistaken. My tone makes it clear that if he persists, it won't end well for him. He stands there, watching me walk away. Panic grips me as I head home. How did he end up here? Should I pack up and leave for another place? Or can I stay without fear? These questions keep racing through my mind. I enter the house, shut the door behind me, and take deep breaths, trying to calm down. No panic. The most important thing now is to think logically. I fall onto the bed, staring at the ceiling, and memories of my school days flood back. Dustin. He used to carry my backpack, fend off anyone who tried to tease me, and copy my math homework. All the girls envied me. He was handsome, and any of them would have loved to date him. But he stuck by my side, and we ended up being considered a couple. After school, life took us in different directions. Dustin joined the army, and I went to university. At first, we kept in touch, but eventually, the letters stopped. We grew up and outgrew our relationship. I hadn't heard much about Dustin since then. And now, this unexpected encounter has thrown me off completely. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door. Is it already over for me? I feel a sense of doom as I go to answer it. But it's Ida, smiling at me. She's holding a basket in one hand and a box in the other. I brought you something, she says. Of course, come in, I reply. Let's have some tea. Sure thing. I just baked some fresh rolls. And here, she lifts the basket, revealing a fluffy gray kitten with an adorable face. I thought you might be lonely, so I brought a friend. How lovely. Thank you so much. I genuinely thank the kind woman, set the table, and we sit down to chat over tea. She asks what brought me to this village. I have a story ready for anyone curious about me, a tough divorce, my husband took everything, and now I just want some solitude, so I'm planning to stay in this village for a while. I kicked my husband out too. Couldn't stand his drinking. Ah, men. But we can't do without them. Have you been anywhere yet? Yeah, I went to the store. The store, she laughs. We even have a cinema here, you know. At the store there was a nice cashier and a man, I mentioned casually. Tall, thin face. Oh, that's Claire and Dustin, Ida waves her hand dismissively. They're dating. Claire's got him wrapped around her finger. I don't like her much. How did he end up here? I ask cautiously. He doesn't seem like a local. He lives in his grandmother's house. He also did some time in prison. Prison? I exclaim. For what? I don't know. Why, do you like him? Ida laughs. Oh, no. I feign surprise. I need to recover from my divorce first. Ida and I chat for a long time, and right after she leaves, I notice the figure of the gray-eyed guy I ran into at the store standing near the gate. Hey, he says. Need help with anything? Like firewood? No, thank you, I reply. His persistence makes me uneasy and seems suspicious. He doesn't leave, instead extends his large hand. Mason. Thanks, Mason, but I don't need anything. If I do, I'll let you know. But he doesn't leave. He stands there, staring at me. Under his gaze, I blush and feel awkward. Aren't you going to introduce yourself, he asks. Sorry, but I don't think it's necessary right now, I respond. Goodbye. I head into the house. Evening is approaching, and I still have so much to do, everything seems to be falling apart, and I feel utterly unmotivated. Dustin's unexpected appearance has completely thrown me off balance. Is there any point in trying to settle down if I might soon find myself back in Alan's grasp? Suddenly, I get an idea. I could try calling Davina at night. But how? I threw away my phone. Maybe I can ask Ida tomorrow if I can use her phone. As evening falls, I feel a sudden urge to go to the lake. I throw on a light sweater and follow the path down. The serenity of the place is overwhelming, and I stand there, heart full, lost in the beauty around me, not hearing the footsteps behind me. Stella. I flinch at the familiar voice. Even if you changed your entire appearance, I'd still recognize you. I turn slowly. Dustin. What happened in your life that brought you to this backwater? The brilliant girl who made a successful marriage. It doesn't matter anymore, I reply. Stella, don't do this. You've never been good at lying. He pauses, pulls out his phone, and shows me a photo. Look at this. I nearly collapse from shock. Alan has posted on my social media, announcing that I'm missing and offering a $1.5 million reward for finding me. What happened that made you run away? He asks. Stella, I want to help you, but if I don't know the whole story. What, so you can turn me into him? I snap. No. I don't mean that. Dustin, I haven't done anything terrible. Don't you know me better than that? Of course, I do. Look. I roll up my sleeves, showing him the bruises on my arms. And it's all over my body. He beat you? Yes. Dustin, I was trapped in a golden cage. Trying to hold back my tears, I tell him my whole story. Man, he says, shaking his head. You've been through hell, Stella. How did our paths diverge so drastically? I thought about you, you know. Is it true you were, you know, in prison? He gives a bitter smile. Yeah, I was, Stella. For what? I ask. Fighting. My parents disowned me, left the apartment to my brother, and I got this house from my grandma. So here I am. What now, Dustin? I ask. Are you going to turn me in? $1.5 million is a lot of money. I don't betray my own, he says firmly. What about the locals? They might recognize me. They'd have to find your social media profile first, which is unlikely. I recognized you because I've known you for so long, but you've changed your hair color and style, so it's doubtful they'll link you to the missing person. But if anything happens, I'll let you know, and we'll figure something out. Thank you, Dustin. Let me walk you home. I think we should go separately. Someone might see us and tell your girlfriend. Don't worry, it's fine. Suddenly, I get an idea that seems crazy, but I really want to do it. Dustin, I say, do you have a phone? I want to call my friend. Even though I'm scared. Is this friend trustworthy? He asks. Yes. I just need to know what's happening there. Here, he hands me his phone. I've set it to unknown, so your number won't show. I dial Davina's number from memory and hear her sleepy voice. Hello. Davina, I whisper, it's me. Stella, she wakes up completely. Stella. Where are you? I didn't expect you'd actually do it. Davina, has Alan been to see you? He came to me first, but I sent him away. Stella, listen, wherever you are, stay put and keep your head down. Alan has plastered the town with missing person posters. He's in a rage you wouldn't believe. This is a huge blow to his reputation. The journalists are starting to get suspicious. We chat for a bit longer, then say our goodbyes, and I hand the phone back to Dustin. He walks me home and then heads back to his place. In the morning, just as I'm waking up, there's a decisive knock on the door. When I open it, I see Claire standing there, looking very annoyed. Well, hello, she smirks, her aggressive demeanor unnerving me. My God, what a mess you are. Hair all tangled, skinny, and no breast at all. Did you come to discuss my appearance, I ask, or do you have a purpose? Listen, sweetheart, she sneers, I don't know how you and Dustin know each other, but I'm asking you nicely, stay away from him. A man like him needs a proper woman, someone who can cook him dinner, satisfy him in bed, and bear his children. And you? You don't even have your own home. I've been working on him for years, and I'm not about to let someone like you take him. Claire, calm down, I say. Dustin and I are just very old acquaintances. So old that there's no chance of anything happening between us. She seems to calm down a bit, looking at me with pity rather than hostility. So, what happened to you? Why are you here? I tell her my cover story, and she sighs sympathetically. Wow. Well, I guess men are the least of your concerns right now. She wags her finger at me. But stay away from Dustin. He's mine. Alright, I'm off. I hope you understand me. She leaves, and I breathe a sigh of relief. The last thing I need right now is more trouble. Claire could easily find out about Alan's announcement. What should I do? Leave? I've grown so fond of this place in just a few days, and I feel truly happy here. I return to my room, take off my pajamas, and look at myself in the mirror. The bruises are slowly fading, but my body does look frail. I should start running, the fresh air here is perfect for it. I feed Ida's gift, the kitten I named Flaff. He twitches his ears adorably and purrs, happily devouring his food. Then I head out for my first run. It turns out running in the morning is delightful, and nothing gives a sense of freedom like jogging along the lake. Running also helps me think clearly. I've decided not to leave this village for now. I'll be careful, and I need a dog. If trained well, it could protect me if needed. After my run, I happily plunge into the cool water. It's so clear and pure that I feel like breathing it in, becoming one with nature. I step onto the shore, sit on the warm sand, and feel wonderful. I bask in the morning sun and the tranquility until I hear a sudden snap of a branch in the bushes. Who's there? I shout. In response, there's only the frightened crackle of branches. I calm down, maybe it's just a dog. Yes, I really do need a dog. But who should I ask about that? Well, I can check with Ida, she knows everything about everyone. After breakfast, I visit her. She seats me at the table, which already has cookies and aromatic strawberry jam, and she pours me tea with bergamot. I feel on top of the world. We chat about local matters. Ida mentions that many residents earn well in the local greenhouses during the summer and fall. These are owned by the local wealthy man, Ryan Mitchell. The greenhouses are very important to the nearby towns, all the produce is sent there, and Ryan and his staff's work is highly valued. There's plenty of work, so if I want to. But I don't want to rush into anything, I need to get my emotions in order first. Ida, tell me, does anyone around here have dogs? I'd like a dog, preferably a German Shepherd. She shrugs. Ryan has dogs on his farm, guarding the warehouses, but he's not likely to just give one away, though he's not stingy. I stay at Ida's almost until lunchtime, it's so cozy with her that I don't want to leave. On my way back home, I see a boy around 6 years old, limping and crying on the road. Hey! I call out to him. Why are you crying? I cut my leg, he cries, and only then do I notice the trail of blood behind him. Come on, I say, taking his hand. Let's sit on the bench. When we sit down, I lift his leg to examine it. The cut is quite serious. I'll clean and bandage it for you, I say. Dad will kill me if he finds out, the boy says. Here, hold my kitten, Flaff, to help distract you from the pain. I fetch the first aid kit I found in the house, take out what I need, and start cleaning the wound, applying ointment and wrapping it tightly with a bandage. There you go. I say when I'm done. Now you're a real fighter. He looks at the bandage with satisfaction. All the boys will be jealous, he says. Are you a nurse? Well, let's say I am, I smile at him. He stands up. I need to go, Dad will be looking for me. Can I come back and play with Flaff? Of course, come by any time. I'd be happy. I'll come tomorrow, he promises, and leaves, exaggeratedly limping. I smile to myself. What a sweet boy. If I had been wiser, I might have had a son his age by now. But instead of a son, I'm haunted by a nightmarish past. I spend the rest of the day doing my usual chores, and later I lie in bed, enjoying the peace and quiet. Flaff is next to me, purring contentedly. Just as I pick up a book, there's a sudden knock on the door. Hoping it's not Dustin, I glance out the window and see a tall man in a simple t-shirt and sweatpants. I open the door and meet the kind gaze of blue eyes. "Hello," he says. "I'm Ryan Mitchell, perhaps you've heard of me?" "Yes, I have," I reply, wondering why he's here. "You're probably wondering why I'm here. My son, Larry, told me how you skillfully bandaged his foot. I came to thank you." "Oh, it was nothing," I smile. "Anyone would have done the same in my place." "Thank you." This man seems pleasant with his straightforwardness and simple appearance. He has an oval face, intelligent eyes, straight hair covering a tanned forehead, a nose with a slight bump, and full lips. "You're from the city, I can tell," he says. "Are you here for a break?" For a break and maybe even some work, I try to steer the conversation. "You have a wonderful son." "Larry?" "He's a mischievous. There's no woman in the house, so he gets a bit wild sometimes. My mother lives with us, but she's quite old now. Such a promising man by village standards doesn't have a wife. But that shouldn't concern me. I wanted to ask if you need anything. You helped Larry, and I'd like to return the favor." "Thank you," I say, "but I don't need anything. Larry is a child, and I had to help him." "You're a very kind person. Your name is Stella, right?" Larry told me. "Yes, Stella." "Stella, don't hesitate to ask if you need anything. I'm always willing to help." We part like old friends, and he leaves while I return to my book and flaff. I have a restless night, tossing and turning, thoughts of Alan keeping me awake. I feel shattered. Eventually, I drift into a troubled sleep, alternating between feeling too hot and too cold, pulling the blanket tightly around me and then throwing it off again. Then, the thought creeps into my poor, fevered mind that the dip in the cold lake water didn't go unnoticed. The next day, I take pills from the found first aid kit, lie in bed, don't eat anything, and can only manage some lemon tea. It takes me a full 4 days to fully recover. Suddenly, during the day, Larry comes running up, playing with Flaff on the porch. He tells me about some of his childish exploits. "Larry, do you go to school?" "Yeah, I'm already in 2nd grade, he says importantly. "And who helps you with your homework?" "I do it myself or my grandma. She's nice but strict. We don't have a mom, just my dad. He should get married," he says, sounding very grown up. "Larry," I sit down next to the boy, "where is your mom?" "Grandma says she's gone somewhere, went to the city with some scoundrel." Strange, Larry's mom seems to have disappeared just like I did. Or is it something completely different? But why is this so important to me? Could this Ryan be just like Alan? I decide that I'll slowly start asking Ida about the Mitchell family. While I was sick, I avoided going to the store and tried to minimize contact with Claire. I feel like she could be dangerous if she finds out anything about me. But I have to go to the store, so I grab what I need, and Claire silently rings up my groceries, and then I leave. After the store, I head to Ida's. She's sitting in her garden. "Oh, Stella. It's been a while since you last visited me, dear. I was sick, caught a cold." She invites me to sit at the table. I can tell Ida is itching to ask me something. Finally, she can't hold it in any longer. "Ryan, did he stop by? The whole village knows you helped Larry with his leg. Ryan just came to say thank you." "Ah, Ryan's a good man," Ida began. "Ida, what are you getting at? If I were you, I'd pay attention. You're young, maybe something could happen between you two." "What?" "Stop it," I say. We fall silent, but Ida smiles mysteriously, and I can't help but ask cautiously. "And Larry's mom, where is she? Is it true she left?" "Yeah," says Ida. "She left. But at first, Mandy went to the city to work, even though Ryan said, 'Why do you need that? I make good money at the greenhouses.' But she said, 'No, I'll go, see my friends, I need a break, and I'll earn some money.' She left. And Ryan couldn't handle it. She only came back twice, then less and less. Then she just sent him a letter saying she fell in love with someone else, and she'll file for divorce herself. Ryan didn't give Larry to her, and he did the right thing. And she doesn't even visit her son. I ask. How could she leave someone like Larry? You're naive, Stella. People do worse. Larry's a good boy, and his grandma is the one holding everything together. His dad's busy working all the time, so it's all on his grandma. Of course, I agree, mothers, they can be like that. So she's Mandy's mother, says Ida. What? My surprise knows no bounds. Yeah, she nods. When Mandy got a new love, her mom told her she's no longer her daughter. So she stayed with Ryan and Larry. I was stunned to hear that. Why doesn't Ryan remarry? He's not old yet. A child needs a mother. He's not interested in women anymore. You think nobody tried? Ryan was a catch. Maybe he used to hit his wife too. Why too? Ida asks, surprised, and I realize I've said too much. Well, I mean, many husbands beat their wives. I try to steer the conversation away. What nonsense. Ryan is not like that. See, you're interested in him. That means you liked him. Liked him? Oh, come on, I say. I've got to know who you live next to. And that's absolutely right. I walk home and from afar see two figures sitting on the bench near the house. No, three. Odd, who could that be? As I approach closer, my heart pounds with joy and surprise. Ryan stands up to greet me, and at his feet is a German Shepherd. Larry dances happily next to them and says, Stella, look who we brought you. This is Z. Why didn't you tell me you needed a dog, Stella? Ryan smiles. I didn't want to trouble you. You didn't trouble me at all. He hands me the leash. This is a very good dog. I think you two will be friends. I squat down in front of Z and ruffle her neck, hug her, stroke her warm fur. Thank you. Let's go. Larry pulls me into the yard. I'll tell you everything about her. Larry. Ryan says, maybe Stella needs to rest, and here you are with your chatter. No, don't worry, I object. If you allow, let Larry stay with me for a while. Oh, would you like some tea? I wouldn't say no. At home, I put the kettle on. We smile as we hear Larry introducing Z to Flaff in the yard. Larry refuses the tea, he's fully engrossed with the animals. How did you find out? I ask Ryan. Good people told me, he smiles. Ida. I only talked to her. That's the one. In the morning, I find Z on the porch. As soon as she sees me, she starts jumping. Well, Z, shall we go for a run? And then, for a swim. She barks softly, showing her support. Running along the lake has become a routine. I cheerfully call Z along, she runs beside me, then we lie on the sand together, and later, we dip into the lake. At one point, she suddenly swims back to the shore, barking, then rushes to the bushes, barking loudly, and then jumps into them. Z. Z. I shout, what did you find there? Z, come here. She returns with a trophy, a small piece of blue denim fabric. Were you chasing after this? I ask her, astonished, and suddenly realize that she must have torn it off someone. Well, you're a hunter. I wonder who it could have been. Whom did she see in the bushes? Most likely, she knows everyone around here, so it must be someone unfamiliar. Excellent. It's good not to know who's keeping an eye on me. We head back home. For some reason, thoughts of Larry and Ryan's life haven't left my mind this whole time. How are they managing? I finally decide to tidy up the garden. I'll plant some flowers here, and then it will look beautiful. Although why bother if I don't even know what tomorrow will bring? Is it worth getting used to a home that isn't really mine? Probably not. But I'll still plant the flowers, let them bring joy to the eyes. Engrossed in the garden work, I stop noticing everything around me, but suddenly I hear a voice above me. Hello. Need any help? I brush a curly strand of hair from my forehead, look up, it's Mason. The same guy I met at the store for the first time. No, thank you, I say to him. Your hands are all calloused already, he chuckles, I'll go get you some gloves. He leaves and returns with 2 pairs of gloves, then sees me struggling with some stubborn root, takes the shovel from me, and pulls out the root. I have some blue paint left there, Mason says, I'll bring it. It'll look nice. Before I can even say anything, he brings a can of paint and 2 brushes. We paint the fence, and when we finish, my heart often flutters with joy, it's so beautiful. How much do I owe you for the paint? I ask. Nothing, he shrugs, but I'd be glad if you invited me for tea tomorrow. I can't make it today. I nod in agreement. Come for lunch, let's have tea. After such active work, I collapse into bed right after a shower. Every cell in my body feels tense after such physical exertion. And most importantly, today I didn't think about Alan at all. In the middle of the night, I suddenly hear a faint knock on the kitchen window. Has someone come, and what do they want in the middle of the night? I hear Z's quiet whimper outside, throw on a robe over my nightshirt, and go out. It's quiet outside, no one around the house. But as soon as I'm about to go back inside, someone grabs me tightly from behind, breathing hot breath right into my ear. For some reason, I feel this isn't Alan. But the person feels familiar, and there's a strong smell of alcohol on him. I try my hardest to break free, to see who's grabbed me, but I can't turn around. So, I elbow the stranger as hard as I can. He groans and loosens his grip, and I quickly pull away. Dustin. I gasp in surprise. Have you lost your mind? What are you doing? Shoo, he puts a finger to his lips and suddenly pins me against the gate, breathing heavily into my face. Dustin, don't you dare. I whisper. I'll scream. I hear Z growling in the backyard. You won't scream, Dustin sneers. You wouldn't want everyone to know. You've been without a man's touch for a long time. Your sadist of a husband only tortured you. You're a young woman, don't you want? I push him away with my hands. Dustin, what's wrong with you? I trusted you with my story, and you do this? Stella, he says, since you got here, I can't think about anything else. Stella, let's try to rekindle what we had in school. You loved me then. What are you talking about, Dustin? We were kids. Everything's different now. You're a good friend, Dustin, but I can't love you. You can't because I was in prison. Dustin, listen. I just want to get through what happened to me. I'm not looking to start a relationship with anyone, understand? He smirks at me. Dustin, you have a wonderful woman, Claire. Please, don't ruin things with her. Nothing will work between us. Tell me, was it you watching me by the lake? What? He folds his arms and looks at me, then says, what if I tell your husband about you? Aren't you afraid? I could demand a small fee for my silence. Then there's nothing left to discuss, I respond coldly and head towards the house. Stella, wait. I don't know what I'm doing. Please, don't take me seriously. But I close the door behind me. I spend the rest of the night awake, once again disappointed in someone I thought I could trust. I decide I can't stay here any longer, I can't rely on Dustin and his loose tongue. Waiting for morning, I pack my things, put Flaff in a basket with a lid, and leash C. I leave the house at 6 in the morning. First, I need to drop the house keys in Doug's mailbox. Then, I'll head to the highway. My path takes me past Ryan Mitchell's greenhouses, and as I pass them, I hear a car engine behind me. A large white Jeep stops next to me, the window rolls down, and I see Ryan. Stella, he says, surprised. Is everything okay? Are you leaving? Yes, I reply. Thank you for everything, Ryan. But why are you leaving? Ryan, I can't say why. Are you in trouble? He steps out of the car. Are you afraid of someone? You even got a dog, it's not for no reason. Ryan, I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about it. I have to go. Stella, he takes my hand. Please, don't leave. Larry is very attached to you, he'll be hurt if you go. Please. You can always come to me for help, I'll do anything for you. At the mention of Larry, I start to doubt my decision to leave. But I have to think about my safety and not give in to such provocations. Stella, you have nothing to fear here. Please, don't go. His voice and words have a calming effect on me. And Ryan, it seems like he would make a wonderful friend, but nothing more. I've already grown attached to this place. I feel that things will turn out as Ryan says, and that I could be happy here. So, I say. Okay. For Larry's sake. Honestly, I've grown attached to him too. Get in the car, I'll take you home. I get into the car, and Z jumps onto the back seat, her tongue out as if she's smiling. Stella, Ryan says as he looks at the road, be honest with me, are you in trouble? I understand if you don't want to talk about it, but you can't keep silent and hide forever, right? I heard from Ida that you went through a divorce. Yes, I say. And I'm afraid my ex-husband will come after me. He might do something terrible. That's why I decided to move far away from him. I figured as much. Larry and I would miss you if you left, but I thought, Stella, maybe instead of hiding, you should face your fear. Be prepared for the possibility of confronting him sooner or later. Forgive me if my advice is unwanted, but it might be the best way out of this situation. I promise I'll think about what you said. And Ryan, I have a request, you're often in town, right? I'll give you some money, could you buy me a cheap phone and a SIM card, registered in your name? Sure. Anything else? No, Ryan, thank you. You're already doing so much for me. He drops me off at the first house on Doug Street. I retrieve the keys from his mailbox and head back home. As I unpack my backpack, I think about Ryan's words. He's right, I need to find the courage to face my fear, Alan. I decide to stay here. If he finds me, so be it. I will try not to let him hurt me. After finishing with the unpacking and feeding the animals, there's a knock on the door. I open it to find Dustin standing there. Why are you here? I ask. He looks disheveled, his clothes are rumpled, his chin is stubbled, and his eyes are downcast. Stella. I'm sorry. I lost my mind last night. I didn't mean to hurt you. And I won't do anything, I don't want those money at such a cost. Consider your apology accepted, I say, starting to close the door. Wait, Stella. No, Dustin, please. Go. I don't want any trouble with your girlfriend. I never promised Claire anything. I don't care. She's a good woman, and you need someone like her. Let's keep our contact to a minimum if you really don't want to hurt me. He nods and walks away, and I watch his figure retreat into the distance. Around noon, Mason shows up unexpectedly. He's holding a bouquet of wildflowers and hands them to me with a smile. I noticed you like working with plants. Thank you, I reply, smiling back. Well, I did promise tea. Come in. We sit down for tea with cookies and jam. He looks around my modest home and comments. It's cozy here. I do everything myself at my place too. I live alone, no father, no mother. Do you not have a girlfriend? No. I used to, but we broke up when she moved to the city for school. She met someone there and never comes back. It's probably for the best. I don't trust women. I try to steer the conversation in another direction while thinking about how odd it is that, in this town, seemingly good local men are left by their women. It's curious. The next day, I visit Ida. What do you expect, she says. Girls rarely stay in our village. Everyone wants rich husbands, some go for better job opportunities, and others find it boring here. Young people just don't stick around. But I would love to live here and enjoy the peace and quiet, I tell her. Well, it suits you, but not them. Take Ryan, for example. He's hardworking, resourceful, and knows how to run a business, yet his wife left him, and their son doesn't need her. When she learns that Mason helped me in the garden and then came over for tea, she waves her hands dismissively. You should pay more attention to Ryan. Listen to me, girl, Mason is strange, he doesn't talk to anyone. But maybe he's just a loner, that doesn't mean he's a bad person. Besides, they're all just my friends, nothing more. That's what you think. They probably see it differently and might want a relationship with you. In the morning, Z and I go for another run. A light rain and gray sky don't dampen my spirits. I put in my headphones and listen to music. Ryan had brought me a phone the previous evening. As we finish our run, I suddenly hear a rustling noise in the bushes. Z, get it. I whisper to the dog. The German Shepherd bolts into the bushes and, a few moments later, drags out a person by their pant leg. Seeing who it is, I gasp in surprise. You. Why are you following me? I pat Z on the neck. Good girl. Then I turn back to my intruder. So, why were you stalking me? Are you out of your mind? Mason stands in front of me, head down, and says. Stella, listen. I really like you. You're not like the other women I've known. And that's why you were spying on me from the bushes? That's a strange way to show a woman you're interested. Stella, please don't be angry. I just wanted to get to know you better, and I was admiring you. My house is close to yours, so I saw you every morning. Look, I promise, we could be a great pair. Just give me a chance. I feel anger bubbling up inside me. Leave me alone. I nearly shout at him. Mason, seriously. Thanks for your help, but I can manage on my own now. Please, don't come over again. Stella. He follows me. Please, wait. Let's talk. No. I've had enough. I walk away, feeling infuriated. At home, I collapse onto the bed and close my eyes. God, what do they all want from me? First Dustin, now this. My heart, scarred by toxic relationships, just wants peace and nothing more. I have breakfast, then plant flowers in the garden, which looks much nicer now. I glance at Mason's house, no one seems to be watching me. The next day, Larry and Ryan show up at my door, carrying boards, a hammer, and nails. We're here to build a doghouse for Z. Larry exclaims happily. Stella, we apologize for not telling you beforehand, but we thought Z needed a doghouse. You're right. Come on in. They get to work, and I watch them from the kitchen window. My heart feels unusually warm, as if I'm with family. Yes, my life could have been entirely different, and maybe I'd be watching my own husband and son right now. I think of Alan and all the pain he caused me. The doghouse for Z turns out fantastic. They admire their work, then call Z over. The clever dog goes right in. All right, let's wash up and have something to eat. I cheerfully say to my helpers. A few minutes later, the three of us are drinking tea, with Flav playing at our feet, and through the window, we see a content Z lounging in her new house. Stella, by the way, Larry and I want to invite you over, and my mom would like to meet you. I don't want to impose, I say to Ryan. Not at all, Stella. My mom would be thrilled. Larry has told her all about you. Please, don't say no. Come over this Saturday. I think for a moment. All right, I agree. They leave with Larry after about 2 hours, and I dive back into my chores, unable to stop thinking about them. Ryan is truly a good friend, and I've grown quite attached to Larry, although I know I shouldn't. At any moment, I might have to leave. The days until Saturday fly by in a blur of everyday tasks, running, and swimming. I feel my body getting stronger, and I love my life right now. Midweek, Ida tells me some news. Dustin proposed to Claire. Honestly, I'm surprised. I didn't think Dustin would take such a step. On Saturday, I put on a simple sundress with a pattern of blue forget-me-nots, clip my slightly grown-out hair back, and head to Ryan and Larry's place. They greet me warmly. The elderly woman, Ryan's former mother-in-law, introduces herself as Dolores. She exudes warmth, with kind eyes, a round face with good skin, and she's dressed well enough to make me feel self-conscious about my own appearance. The Mitchell house is large and bears Ryan's touch everywhere. It's orderly, clean, and even the animals are well kept and smell nice. Dolores has set the table. "Eat up, dear," she says. "You're so thin, as if you don't eat at all." "Oh, that's not true." I smile. I love eating. Lunch is filled with conversation. Dolores talks about her life and family. After lunch, Larry shows me his room. It's small, cozy, and nicely decorated. We settle on the fluffy carpet on the floor and play a children's lotto game. Ryan joins us and says, "You know, Stella, I have this warm feeling here, in my chest. This lunch, it felt so warm and family-like, didn't it? Honestly, I was happy today. Thank you for coming." Suddenly, he changes the subject. "Stella, you haven't seen our garden yet. Their garden is as lovely as the house." "My mom loves flowers," Ryan says. "You probably know she's my first wife's mother. She's become like my own mother, especially since my own parents passed long ago." "But, doesn't she visit her own mother?" I ask. He smirks. "Mandy is carefree. She knows her mom is in good hands now. Plus, I forbade her from coming back." But Dolores sometimes calls Mandy. Walking home, I think about how Ryan is such a solid and magnanimous person. Approaching my house, I see a familiar figure. Surprisingly, it's Claire. Why is she here? Dustin is now completely hers. "Hello, friend," she says mockingly. "Do you like Ryan? It's fitting, he could use a woman. Why are you here?" I ask. "You got what you wanted, so what do you want from me now?" "I need to talk to you," she says, her gaze unsettling. "Let's talk inside." Inside, she takes out her phone, opens something, and hands it to me. "Look at this interesting information I found on social media. It's you, right, in the Help Find section." I look at her, puzzled. Why is she here? She could have called Alan to report my whereabouts. After all, the wedding is soon, and she won't stop at anything to get the money. But instead, she stands there, looking at me as if waiting for me to speak. "Well, why aren't you calling the number?" I ask her. "Or have you already called and now you're here to keep an eye on me? Or are you wondering if I can offer more?" She folds her arms across her chest. "No, that's not why I'm here. I'm not stupid. A woman doesn't just run away from a man willing to pay that much for her capture. So, I showed this to Dustin. He had to tell me your story when he realized I was ready to call." I sink onto a chair, feeling faint. "But even that wouldn't have stopped me," she continues. "Only. I have something worth more to me than any amount of money. That's Dustin. When I started urging him to turn you in, he told me that if I did, he'd sell the house, leave, and I'd never see him again. So, we made a deal, I stay silent about you, and in return, he marries me. Is Dustin worth more than $1.5 million? To me, honey, he's worth much more. So, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to worry about me turning you in. I know Dustin is attached to you in some way, but I hope that everything I do for him will eventually make him love me. I don't know if I can trust her. People like her can be cunning and dangerous, but for some reason, I believe she's sincere right now. Still, I have to ask, why? Is everything Dustin told me true? Instead of answering, I lift the hem of my sundress to reveal a still healing bruise on my thigh. Claire looks at my bruises and says, "Why are you so weak?" I wouldn't tolerate such treatment for a minute. I'd take a rolling pin and hit him. I didn't have a rolling pin, I whisper sadly. I had a whole bunch of servants, security that followed me everywhere, and a sadistic husband who loved using me as a punching bag. Unlucky you, Claire sighs. Alright, I'm leaving. Oh, and by the way, if you want some advice, take a look at Ryan, he's a good man. Thanks, but I'm really not interested in men right now, Claire. The night passes restlessly, I read a book and can't seem to fall asleep. It feels like Alan's eyes are watching me from every dark corner of the room. The conversation with Claire has left me uneasy. I finally fall asleep at 6 a.m., only to wake up around noon. Sunlight streams through the window, and I sit up, stretching with pleasure. Then I put on my tracksuit and go for a run. On the bench in front of the house, I find a bouquet of flowers. It's not just a bouquet picked from a meadow, it's a very luxurious bouquet of roses, purchased from a store and arranged by a skilled florist. I'm curious about who brought it here. Someone must have gone to town just to get it. Who would go to such lengths? I have two candidates for the secret admirer, Mason and Ryan. Ryan is a serious person and wouldn't do something like this, but Mason, the madman, might, despite my telling him to stay away. Perhaps he's trying to apologize in this way. I inspect the bouquet but find nothing, no card. This means the person wanted to remain anonymous. It's likely Mason. What should I do with these flowers? And what if they are from Ryan? I appreciate his attention, even though I'm not looking to start a relationship with anyone. After lunch, Larry unexpectedly shows up with a whole bag of treats for Z and feeds her while sitting on the porch. I bring him a glass of milk and ask, "Larry, did your dad go to town this morning?" "No," he says, "we were in the greenhouses all morning, then he took me home and went back there." I had hoped the bouquet was from Ryan. But why hope? It's most likely from Mason, and that's unfortunate. I really don't want to interact with him anymore, though I liked him before I found out he was stalking me. The next morning, there's another bouquet on the bench. This one is also luxurious and large, but this time it's white chrysanthemums. While talking with Ida, I ask, "Ida, does Mason have a car?" "Mason?" "Yes, he does. It's not new, but it runs. Mason repairs cars, he's a good mechanic, sometimes even gets called to the city for it." "Really? Does he go there often?" "Why do you ask?" Ida asks. I tell her about the flowers, and she says, "He might. It seems he's trying to ask for your forgiveness. What should I do?" "I don't know. You're an adult, it's up to you. But if I were you, I'd pay more attention to Ryan. Ida, we're just friends." The next morning, there's yet another bouquet. This one is bright, bursting with vibrant colors of roses. Alan never gave me flowers, he thought it was unnecessary, even though he knew I loved them. I wonder how I can figure out who is leaving these bouquets on my bench. I decide that tomorrow morning, I'll wake up early and quietly watch from the window. Maybe I'll catch the person in the act. Larry comes over and spends a long time examining the bouquets on the windowsill. Then he asks, "We don't have flowers like these around here. Where did you get them?" "Someone leaves them on my bench." I wake up in the morning, and the bouquet is already there. "Wow," the boy exclaims, "and you don't know who it is?" "No idea. But I really want to find out." "We should set up an ambush," he says confidently. "I watched a war movie with Dad, and they set up ambushes like that," he adds with admiration, then continues sadly, "I want to be in the military when I grow up. And someday, in uniform, I'll visit my mom. At first, she won't recognize me, but then she will, and she'll cry. Oh, God. This child misses his mother. He's starting to share his deepest thoughts with me. That must mean I matter to him in some way. I hug his small shoulders and ask. Larry, do you miss your mom? He nods. Grandma is nice and kind, but my mom, she read me stories better than anyone. Hey, I suddenly say, how about we set up that ambush together? You can help me catch this mystery flower giver. And at night, I'll read you a story. But you'll need to ask your dad for permission. Wow. I get to sleep over at your place. And we'll set up an ambush? And can I sleep with Fluff? You're so cool, Stella. We spend the rest of the day happily, playing games, playing with Z, laughing, and having fun. Later, I tuck Larry in and read him a story. He falls asleep pretty quickly. I go to bed as well, determined to wake up early and find out who is leaving flowers on my bench. It's early morning outside, the first birds are singing, and dew is forming on the green grass. I quietly open the door of the house, dressed in my tracksuit. Z runs up to me immediately, and we quietly head around the corner of the house. I hear cautious footsteps approaching. Listening closely, I hear the steps getting closer and closer. When I hear the rustling of wrapping paper as someone places flowers on the bench, I step out sharply. Aha, caught you. I say, looking mockingly at my mysterious admirer. Mason stands there, his large hands hanging down, looking at me guiltily. Stella. No, I wave my hands, you're going to say again that you like me, and that's why you're doing this. But Mason. I asked you not to come near me. Don't you think you're being too persistent? Stella, listen, he says, I really do like you, but don't think I don't respect you. I respect you very much, and that's why I want to offer you friendship. Wouldn't it be nice to have another friend? Can't we just be friends? He bows his blonde head, his hair sticking out in all directions. He looks so funny, and a bit clumsy with those big hands of his. I have to admit, he's quite good-looking and well-built. Alright, I say, but please, no more secret flowers and no stalking, okay? Promise? I swear, no more of that. Stella, if you need any help, you can come to me anytime. I promise, I'll help you in any way I can. Thank you, Mason. I start to go back into the house when he calls out to me again. Stella. I turn around and look him in the eye. Stella, sorry to bother you again, but can I invite you somewhere? More secrets? I frown. No, no secrets. You hardly ever leave this place. Please come with me to the city. There's a great ice cream cafe, you won't regret it. I think about it. On one hand, it's risky, but on the other hand, I've been scared for too long. I don't know Mason very well, but he doesn't seem as bad as Ida thinks. Alright, I say, when? Whenever it's convenient for you, he replies, I'm always ready. Then let's go tomorrow afternoon. Great, I'll pick you up at 2, does that work? Perfectly. The next day, Mason picks me up. He has a pretty stylish SUV with huge wheels and a bright pattern on the doors. He gallantly helps me settle into the seat next to him. As we drive, we pass Ryan's car, with Larry sitting beside him. They look at me with surprise, as if they didn't expect to see me with Mason. Larry says something to his father, and Ryan nods. My heart skips a beat, why did we run into them? On the other hand, I didn't promise anyone anything, this outing with Mason is just friendly. Why should I feel ashamed? Once we hit the highway, Mason puts the top down. It feels easier to breathe, the wind tousles our hair, and we laugh, looking at each other, as if there were no lingering doubts between us. The ice cream cafe turns out to be a pleasant place with round tables and comfy chairs. A tall waitress brings our order, ice cream servings and milkshakes. I've truly never tasted anything so delicious. The tasty dessert melts in our bowls, and we eat, chat, and laugh. It feels like I've never felt so light before. We chat a lot, and I notice that Mason never asks about my past. We talk about random things, he tells me about cars, throws in a joke, we laugh, and he gently wipes a bit of milkshake from the corner of my lips with a napkin. This innocent gesture makes my heart flutter. No, I can't let anyone into my life, it's too dangerous. After the cafe, he suggests we take a stroll in the local park, and I agree. The park is situated by a small lake. We feed the ducks, chat on a bench, then head to the shooting gallery, where Mason wins a small brown teddy bear for me. We spend so much time in the park that we return in the evening. Mason stops the car in front of my house, then turns to me, looking expectant. Thanks, I say to him, the outing was really enjoyable. I'm glad you liked it, he says, placing his hand on the back of my seat, but I manage to say, see you, and step out of the car. I watch him stand by the house for a while from the window before he drives away. As I drift off to sleep, I think about my trip with Mason. Maybe I needed those sensations. I'm still young, but I don't really want to build a relationship. And you went with him? Ida asks me the next day. Oh, my heart tells me, there's something strange about this Mason. Listen to me, I'm telling you. Ida, maybe you don't know him well. He's nice, trust me. He's not liked by any girl here, Ida snorts. Maybe he's an abuser. An abuser? I laugh. He doesn't seem like one at all. He's full of himself, and people like that often have something wrong with their heads. It's like he's watching everyone. Well, why do you think he's watching everyone? I don't know. She waves her hand dismissively. But my instincts don't lie. Ida's words about Mason somehow sting me. I don't know why she has such an opinion about him. I like Mason, he's kind, can hold a conversation, handsome. Maybe someone would think I've changed my opinion about him too quickly, but that's not the case, Mason genuinely apologized. Since Mason and I were seen together, Larry and Ryan haven't come to see me. Are they upset? But I really didn't promise anything to them, and neither did Mason. However, Ryan come to see me during the day, alone, without Larry, holding some piece of paper. I'm met with his stern gaze and don't understand why he's looking at me like that. Hello, Stella. Hello, Ryan, I'm glad to see you. I need to talk to you. We enter the house, and Ryan says. You know, I trusted you so much and never thought you'd turn out to be like this. Please, don't come near me or Larry anymore. Is it because you saw me with Mason? No, that has nothing to do with it. I don't care who you ride in cars with. I was in town and saw this. He hands me the paper, there's my face on it and the words, wanted, in big letters, below it, small print, and the meaning is that it's unclear whether they're looking for just a person or a criminal. I go pale, Alan has made it to the neighboring town. This is bad, really bad. Ryan, I swear to you, I haven't done anything wrong. Then what's this? Why are you wanted, Stella? I fall silent, trying to find the right words to explain to him, but he says harshly. I won't show this to anyone. But I'll tell you again, stay away from me and my son. He leaves, and I feel sad. Why did I stay silent? Why didn't I tell him who's looking for me and why? His reaction is understandable, he has a family, a son, and he wants to protect them from harm. It's a shame because I would have liked to have a friend like Ryan. But perhaps it's better for them if he and Larry really stop communicating with me. Yes, it would be better for everyone, including me. Ryan's action plunges me into depression. I stop going to Ida's, in the mornings I run along the lake until exhaustion, then do some exercises on the sand, and Z and I go home. At home, I have no desire to do anything, complete apathy has taken over. Flaff and Z, as if sensing my state, constantly stay close by. Flaff purrs while lying next to me as I read another book, and Z whimpers plaintively, as if asking for something. Mason came only once, he has a lot of work. But he promised that soon we would go to the ice cream cafe again. But honestly, I'm not in the mood for walks right now. Most likely, Ryan told Ida everything, which is why she doesn't come. They're in very good terms, so of course, Ida will believe him. It's incredibly hot during the day. I decide to go to the lake with Z. I walk to the shore, stretch out on the warm sand with pleasure, lazily watching Z swim not far from the shore. A group of boys arrives at the lake, Larry among them. I look at him with longing, seeing that he also throws wistful glances at me. I listen to the children's conversations. Can you swim over there? I'm not a weakling, you're the weakling. No, you are. You're stupid. You're the stupid one. Soon, the whole group rushes into the water with shouts and laughter, splashing each other and swimming. I want to turn onto my stomach, but suddenly realize something's wrong. I sit up abruptly, staring into the group of boys. I don't see Larry. A cold fear grips me, I stand up, continuing to stare, and suddenly all those sounds fade away, a frightened cry, and the world becomes quiet. Larry! Larry! Was that me shouting? Or was it someone else? I hear a faint voice in the group of boys. Oh, looks like he drowned. I run to the water, desperately trying to remember where exactly I last saw him, swimming there quickly. Inhale. Down, into the dark abyss. I glance around, swim a bit further. No one's here, just seaweed. Surface. Inhale. Down again, swimming in the cold water. No sign of Larry anywhere. Desperation seizes me. Surface. Inhale. Who are those people on the shore? They're like little dots now, yelling, waving their hands, panic on the shore. Down, into the abyss. Larry, where are you? You can't just leave me like this. You can't. My head spins. And then, a miracle. I see Larry, his eyes closed, and the most important thing right now, to get him out. I grab his fragile little body, resurface, gasping for air. I swim to the shore and see a panicked Ryan rushing towards it. With Larry in my arms, I make it to the shallows, handing him over to someone, then I step aside and collapse on the sand, coughing, spitting out water. Z whines beside me. I remember she tried to swim after me, but I pushed her back to shore. Everyone crowds around Larry, someone starts mouth to mouth, the boys talk quietly among themselves. Soon I hear. Yes. He's breathing. Someone's hand touches my shoulder. Ryan. Stella, thank you. You saved my son's life. I don't know how to thank you. No need, Ryan, Larry means a lot to me too. You don't have to thank me. I smile at him, but it feels feeble. Let's go, I'll walk you home. Ryan carries Larry, who looks at me and says. Stella, you saved me. Pulled me out of the water. It was scary there, but you came. I turn away, trying to hide my face, tears welling up. Dad, I'll never go to the lake again without you or Stella. They accompany me to my house. Ryan puts me in bed, covers me with a blanket, brews tea for me and Larry. Then he leaves with Larry in his arms, and I collapse on the bed, sinking into a deep, painful sleep. I wake up at sunset, completely shattered, every muscle in my body aches, the pain reminiscent of Alan's blows. And suddenly the realization of everything I've been through hits me, shaking me to the core. Flaff rubs against me, licking my wet cheeks, purring, and I manage to fall asleep again. The next day, I'm still bruised, but I muster the strength to go out into the garden to water the flowers. Mason shows up right away. Stella, I just found out. How are you? You're a real hero, everyone knows you saved the kid. Thanks, Mason, I'm fine now. You're very strong, Stella, says Mason, gently lifting my chin with his fingers, strong and brave. The evening of the next day, Ryan, Larry, and Ida come over. They bring me various treats. They sit at the table, I pour tea for everyone, and Larry runs off to Z. Stella, we've come to talk, Ryan suddenly says, despite that leaflet, I believe you're a very good person. But you're hiding something and don't want to trust anyone. We want to help you. But how can we do that if we don't know anything? Please, trust us. Tell us what happened to you, let's figure out what to do together. I hesitate for a moment. I look at them and wonder, are there really people who aren't indifferent to others' suffering? I begin to tell them about my life with Alan. After my story, they fall silent for a while, unable to take their eyes off the still visible bruise on my thigh. Ida is the first to speak up. That scoundrel. Where was his father looking? Wait, Ida, Ryan stops her with a gesture, Stella, but you can't hide from him for the rest of your life. Especially with his connections, he can find you anytime. I'm mentally prepared for that already, I sigh sadly, but I won't run away anywhere, I don't see the point. Stella, you say he's a businessman? Yes, his father built a real empire, and he's carrying on his legacy. He's a powerful businessman, practically a monopolist in the city. Powerful. Ryan murmurs thoughtfully, well, strong people always have weaknesses. They just don't show them to anyone. I don't think your husband is an exception. Can you tell me more about what he does? I don't know too much, I shrug. I tell Ryan everything I know about my husband's business, his dealings, partners, and contacts. Ryan ponders for a moment, then says, Stella, to be able to defend yourself, you need to know your enemy inside out, with all his weaknesses and strengths. Ryan, Alan has no weaknesses. He's mighty and will stop at nothing. I'll think about what can be done, he says, but in this case, the best option is to use the enemy's own weapons against him. Maybe I'm too stupid to understand what he means. As Ida hugs me goodbye, she says reassuringly, Don't worry, dear, we won't let you fall into Alan's hands. For several days, nothing happens, except for Mason occasionally dropping by for a cup of tea and bringing something tasty to cheer me up. One day, I watch as clients arrive in expensive cars. He talks to them outside, then they enter his house. Sometimes I visit Ida, we talk for a long time, and in those conversations, I forget about my problems and Alan. But I'm worried that Ryan hasn't shown up. Then one day, Larry comes running and tells me his dad has left. How? I ask, surprised. And where to? This. Larry pauses, then mentions my town. A sense of foreboding envelopes my mind. Of course, he didn't leave to hand me over to Alan. But why? I decide that Ida probably knows something about Ryan's departure, so I head over to see her. On the way, I try calling Ryan, but there's no answer. After a while, I receive a text message, Stella, I'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks. Everything will be fine, don't worry. Please reassure Mom and Larry. And don't think about anything bad. His message immediately calms me. I understand that I need to take care of Dolores and Larry. Could Ryan have gone to see Alan? When I arrive at Ida's, she's watering the flowers along the terrace. Seeing me, Ida exclaims. Oh, Stella. Come on in, dear, I've made some lemonade. We head to the terrace. Ida, I say, tell me honestly, do you know why Ryan went to the city where my husband is? I expected you to come and ask that. But I don't know anything, dear. He just asked me to look after you and said you shouldn't doubt that he wants to help you. Do you think you went to offer him money for me? But I'm just a stranger to him. After you saved his son. I think Ryan has other plans. In any case, we just have to wait. Don't worry, dear. I'm sure everything will be fine. By the way, he asked me to give you something. I didn't know what it meant, but it made me laugh when I saw it. She brings out a large, heavy bag containing a punching bag and a pair of boxing gloves, along with a note from Ryan. Imagine, Stella, that the bag is Alan. While I'm gone, you'll have time to let out all your anger on it. All your anger, hurt, and hatred. Good luck. P.S. I think the gloves should fit just right. I return home and immediately hang up Ryan's gift. I put on the gloves, he guessed the size perfectly. I look at myself in the mirror and can't help but laugh, a prim girl in a sundress with boxing gloves. I start working with the bag. At first, I clumsily punch it with one glove, then the other. Imagine it's Alan, I remember the words from the note and begin to hit it furiously, with all my strength. I don't notice when I start crying. I haven't cried like this since I left. My aggression pours out on the bag, and then comes relief. Maybe Ryan is right, and I need this right now. I only come to my senses when I hear Mason's voice. Stella, are you okay? Yes. I respond, taking off the gloves. Mason looks at me. Wow. Getting into sports. Good for you. But why do you look upset? If someone bothered you, just tell me. No, everything's fine. Did you need something? I just wanted to check on you. Thanks, everything's great, but I'm not in the mood to talk right now, sorry. Alright, just remember that I'm here and always ready to help, okay? I spend the whole day at Dolores and Larry's, but this time I'm not alone, I bring Z and Flav. As always, I help Dolores and play with Larry, then put him to bed. I head home at dusk. As I approach the house, Z starts to whine softly, and Flav, in my arms, tenses up. There's someone standing near the house. I look out the window as he approaches closer. It's Mason. Mason? I say, surprised. What are you doing here at this hour? Stella, please don't be mad, he replies. I wanted to ask you, on a date. A date? I furrowed my brow. Is that why you were peeking into my window? Stella, sometimes when I'm working in my yard, I hear you. But today, it was so quiet. By evening, I got worried that something might have happened. I came to check, and neither you nor Z were around. I was at Ryan Mitchell's. He left town and asked me to look after Larry and Dolores. He left. That's strange. Where did he go, and for how long? Why are you so interested? I asked, suddenly cautious. It's just that, he usually doesn't go anywhere. He has a farm to manage. He left on business, probably something related to his work. Stella, Mason took my hands hesitantly, and Z immediately growled. I've missed you, Stella. Let's go for a walk. It's beautiful by the lake right now. Why does my heart flutter and tighten whenever he touches me? Alright, but only if Z comes with us. Of course, as long as you're with me. We head to the lake. The sky is already illuminated by a huge moon. We walk along the path by the lake, talking. Mason tells me about his family, his dreams as a teenager, and his relatives. Do you know what I've always dreamed of? He asks. This dream still lives in my heart, Stella, and I hope one day I'll make it come true. What dream is that? I ask him. I want to earn a lot of money and see the world. Travel all over the planet, visit every corner of the globe. That's a great dream. Why don't you move to the city? There are more opportunities for good earnings. Your dream could come true faster. Well, that's not for me. The city is all hustle and bustle, too many people, incredible competition. And what about your dream? My dream is simple, I smile. I want to live in Joytown, have a cozy house, wake up to the sound of roosters, the lowing of cows, and enjoy peace and quiet. Swim in the lake in the mornings and just love my animals. Welcome guests in a cozy home, listen to birds singing outside my window in the evenings. And lots of flowers. Is that really a dream? Mason laughs. Stella, you don't know how to dream big. Even if it is a dream, hasn't it already come true for you? Not quite, I say with a bit of frustration. We stroll along the lake, and when we head back, Mason suddenly suggests. Do you want to go for a swim? The water's warm. With a shout, he runs towards the water, shedding his clothes as he goes. Z races after him, barking loudly. I approach the water, hesitating whether to follow Mason's lead, but slowly start undressing. Mason dives into the water. I immerse myself in the warm lake, swimming with delight, then flip onto my back, floating and gazing at the starry sky. Eventually, this view is interrupted by Mason's face. Startled, I let out a small scream, and he laughs. "Did you fall asleep?" "No, I didn't fall asleep," I laugh. "I was just lost in thought." We start splashing and playing around, with Z barking from the shore, watching our antics. I haven't had this much fun in a long time. At one point, Mason catches me and pulls me close. I can feel his heart pounding next to mine. "Look, how beautiful," I whisper to him, pointing at the enormous moon. "Yes," he says, turning back to me, "and you're beautiful." We freeze, staring into each other's eyes. His gaze mesmerizes me, and I respond to his light yet passionate kiss. His hands glide over my wet curls and down my body in the water. Suddenly, I come to my senses and push him away. "This is too much, Mason." "Sorry," he says, "I couldn't help myself. Stella, for my dream, I need a partner by my side. What do you think about that?" I don't respond, swimming back to the shore. We each head back to our own homes. I fall into bed with a smile on my lips. The next morning, I hardly recognize myself in the mirror. A happy, radiant girl with playful curls and a slender figure looks back at me. When was the last time I felt this way? Probably before I met Alan. Around midday, I go to Ida's for lunch. During our meal, we chat about various things, and eventually, I can't resist sharing about my evening with Mason. She shakes her head and says, "You're an adult, but I have to say, you need to get a job and stop wasting time on nonsense. And you should listen to me about Mason. He wants to travel." "Really?" "He's lazy and loves easy money, Stella." "Easy money?" I'm surprised. Isn't being a mechanic hard work? As far as I know, it's quite demanding. "Oh, don't say I didn't warn you later." But, buoyed by the joyful evening, I just smile at her words. Ida is probably right, I need to find a job. I decide to visit Dolores and ask her who I should talk to about it while Ryan is away. The kind woman pours me some cool lemonade and says, "Go see Greg. He's in charge while Ryan is gone and spends all his time in the greenhouses. He'll hire you right away, there's always a shortage of people." I thank her, say goodbye, and head home, planning to go to the greenhouses tomorrow. Today, I need to tidy up the house. The rest of the day flies by in a whirlwind of chores and household tasks. Larry drops by, and Mason comes over to help around the house. When he leaves, he gently takes my chin and gives me a light kiss on the lips. I close my eyes, feeling a strong desire to melt into his arms. For the rest of the evening, I try not to think about him, but it's a struggle. I wake up early to finish my run and boxing routine, eat, and head to the greenhouses. It's quite a walk, they're located just beyond the village. The area dedicated to farming is enormous. Beyond the greenhouses are fields, neatly plowed with people working busily. A woman in a sweater and blue sweatpants approaches me. "Hi," she says. "I'd like to speak with Greg." "Oh, he's my husband," she says. "Come on, let's find him." "Are you looking for work?" We walk along the greenhouses, and the woman, who introduces herself as Lila, shows me around and says, "We're short a couple of people. Can you stay today? I'd like to show you our work." "Of course," I reply. Before lunch, Lila shows me all the necessary tasks, what to do and how to do it. Just before our break, we step outside to rest. Standing near the greenhouses, we look out over the village, and Lila tells me about her family. Suddenly, a few cars appear on the road leading to Joytown, with a black SUV in the lead. Lila watches the convoy and says, "Oh, it must be those city folks visiting Mason again." I watch the cars and, for some reason, it feels like one of those SUVs belongs to Alan. I spent the rest of the day at the farm, constantly on edge and stressed. I kept imagining that any moment now, several cars would turn off the road and head towards the greenhouses. And in one of them would be my husband, Alan. He would swagger out of the car, take a critical look at the greenhouses, approach me, and hit me in front of everyone. But I stayed at the farm until evening, and no one showed up. Berating myself for panicking, I waited for Lila. I wanted to suggest we walk together, but she laughed and said, "Are you kidding? We have a bus that takes us. Tomorrow morning, be ready by 9, we'll pick you up." When the bus arrives, Lila and I sit at the front. I watch through the back window as the greenhouses fade into the dust kicked up by the wheels. During the short ride, I manage to get acquainted with almost all the greenhouse workers. As we drive to my house, I feel a strange fear gripping my heart, as if something terrible awaits me there. But outside, everything is calm, no unfamiliar cars, no strangers, no Alan. I quickly calm down, hop off the bus, and head to my house. I hear Mason's voice. "Stella. Where did you disappear to? I've been waiting for you all day." He walks towards me, tall, handsome. Why am I so foolish, paying so much attention to a man's looks? I hardly know him. Maybe I should listen to Ida's words. But I'm drawn to Mason like a magnet. "I got a job, in the greenhouses," I say. "Really? You don't seem like the type to do such hard work." "Why not? I'm just a regular person, not some aristocrat." "Are you having money problems?" "Why do you ask?" "No, I'm not having money problems. I just need to socialize and it's boring sitting at home all day. I just thought, maybe you needed help." "I could help." "How?" I laugh. "With money?" "No, Mason, thanks. Let's go to the lake instead." Soon, the three of us, Mason, Z, and I, are running to the lake. We splash around in the water for a long time, then lie on the shore, gazing at the blue sky. "What did you do today?" I ask him, trying to find out if those cars were for him. "Clients from the city," he says indifferently. "Those fancy cars with the black SUV in the lead?" I ask just as indifferently. He freezes for a moment, and a shadow crosses his face. "Yes." "Did you see them?" "From a distance. Lila and I were resting after lunch, and they drove by. Lila immediately said they were headed to you. But those cars didn't look like they were from the nearest city, very expensive brands." "Well, there are quite a few wealthy people living there, you've seen the mansions. They have cars like that." I didn't argue with him, even though there weren't many mansions, and they didn't seem like homes for the super rich. "Stella, aren't you worried about your hands?" he asks, taking my hand and gently kissing each finger. "You have such delicate hands, and you want to spoil them with hard work." His words sting a little. Maybe Ida is right, and this man is two-faced and money-loving. "All work deserves respect," I say, pulling my hand away. "Stella, I didn't mean to offend you." "You're right, I might have said it wrong. I'm sorry." He walks me home, gently holding my waist. I hear his breath, pressing against him, feeling his warm body under the shirt. We stand there for a while, then he leaves, and I go inside, thinking about what all this means. Am I falling in love again? How foolish. I go to bed immediately, since I have to get up early for work. I've barely fallen asleep when my phone vibrates. "Stella." Ryan's quiet voice pulls me from my half-sleep. "Stella, sorry for calling late. I just wanted to ask how Larry is." "Ryan." I exclaim. "Where are you? We've been worried about you, Dolores and I. What's going on with you?" "Stella, don't worry about me, everything's fine. I tell Ryan about our daily routines with Larry and that I got a job in his greenhouses. He's surprised and praises me, and when he hears about the punching bag, he's delighted. "Are you really training?" he asks. "Of course. Why is that surprising?" "Well, you're not exactly made for tough sports, Stella. You're a delicate, beautiful princess who needs to be saved and protected." "Ryan, what are you talking about? I'm no princess." Throughout the workweek, I can't stop thinking about Ryan. There's a sense of unease in my heart, as if something bad is going to happen. I try to push away these negative thoughts and not think about Alan, but it's difficult. The longer Ryan is away, the more I fear that an encounter with my husband is inevitable. Mason hadn't come all these days. When I return home from work, finally, Mason is waiting for me outside the house. "Stella, hi. Sorry I disappeared. I was away for a few days." "It's okay, Mason. Where did you go?" "I had to go to the city to take care of some things." "I'm glad you're back. Today was a tough day at work, and I'm really tired. Maybe we could go to the lake. You need to relax and refresh." We walk to the lake. I can't refuse this walk with him. Despite everything, I feel that Mason is a close person to me, someone I really like. We walk slowly along the path, and I realize how good I feel right now. Mason gently puts his arm around my waist. Then he stops, turns me to face him, and begins to kiss me, slowly and passionately. His kisses ignite a spark of passion in me that I haven't felt in a long time. "Stella," he whispers when he pauses, "I want to invite you on a date this Saturday. Let's go to our cafe. And afterwards, I'd like to invite you to my place." I look at Mason, his eyes gleaming in the dark. I really want to agree to his invitation, and after thinking for a moment, I decide to go on a date with him. I've been cautious for too long. Until Saturday, there are still a few workdays left, but I'm already eager to go on a date with Mason. I have to admit to myself that, not yet recovered from my relationship with my husband, I'm somehow ready to dive into new ones. Most likely, it's wrong and quite reckless, but I can't help it. Larry still runs to me almost every day. Why does the boy feel drawn to me? But he enjoys being with me, happily plays with Z, and after my work, we go to the lake to swim and have fun. The only person Larry looks at with suspicion is Mason. I don't know why he doesn't like him so much, but the boy behaves cautiously towards him. Maybe it's childish jealousy. Once, "Larry," he asked, "is Mason your fiancé?" I squat down in front of him and smile. "What if he is? I don't want him to be your fiancé. He's not at all like a fiancé. And do you know, Larry, what a fiancé should be like?" "Yes," he replies. "A fiancé should be smart, handsome, kind, should love animals. And Mason isn't like that?" I ask. "No. He may be smart, but he's not kind at all, and he doesn't like animals. Especially Z, she growls constantly when he comes. Midweek, I go to Ida's place, and she scolds me. See, even a child feels that something is not right with this Mason. If you don't want to listen to me, at least listen to Larry. Children subconsciously sense bad people. I can't convince her that Mason is a good person. I haven't received this much attention in a very long time. Mason brings me flowers practically every evening. And Mason gave me a guitar when he found out that I can play and sing, although I've neglected it for a long time. And now our evenings by the lake are filled with the sounds of the guitar. In the evening by the lake, I go through guitar chords and sing. Sometimes I mess up, and it annoys me. I've forgotten everything, I need to remember from scratch. The guitar, Stella, is like riding a bike, once you start, you never forget, Mason smiles. But you play wonderfully, and your voice is simply magical. Stella. Larry jumps around me. Will you teach me to play when I grow up? I will if I'm not somewhere else by then. Are you going somewhere? Larry becomes wary. Like Dad? No, I'm not planning to leave, Larry. And your dad will be back soon. We won't let Stella go anywhere. Mason laughs and starts tickling me and Larry. We squeal and laugh, tickling each other, while Z runs around us barking, and it seems to me that these moments are the best I've ever experienced in my life. Listen, Stella, Lila says to me at work, this Mason of yours. He's not right for you. You need a serious man, like our Ryan. And what am I supposed to do with him? I ask. With Ryan? Well, probably what a wife usually does with her husband, she chuckles. Mason is very nice, just modest. He's lazy and aimless. Why do you say that? Look at his car. You don't get something like that by just sitting around. And besides, he's an auto mechanic, and that's hard work. Well, the car belonged to his late father, he just inherited it, and Mason only works when he wants to or when clients come. There's no stability in his work. Your Mason is just lazy. All of you, you and Ida, keep saying he's lazy, but none of you have proven it to me yet. What evidence do you need? Don't you trust us, your friends? I trust what I see. Well, then you're a fool, Lila says. Fine, it's your business, just don't complain later. Why do they all assume I'll complain? Mason pays me enough attention, he's really sensitive, kind, and good. On Saturday, I wake up early. I go about my usual routine, boxing, jogging, swimming, feeding the animals. I have breakfast. I'm in a great mood. Today I have a date with Mason, and then at his place. It seems that we're finally moving to a new phase in our relationship. I decide to dress fairly casually, bright blue polka dot dress, white flat sandals, and I carefully comb my hair. I've decided not to dye it anymore, and my natural red color peeks through the black strands. It looks somewhat messy on one hand, but on the other, quite unusual. Mason picks me up at 5, and we head to town. At the cafe, we sit at the same table as last time. Their ice cream and cocktails are so delicious. I cautiously touch the sweet dessert with my lips like a little child and enjoy licking it off the spoon. Mason says to me, "I'm such an idiot. A girl like you deserves a fancy restaurant, and here I am taking you to an ice cream cafe." "Don't say that," I reply. I haven't been to a cafe like this since I was a child, so I have to thank you for the opportunity to go back there. After the cafe, we stroll in the park again and even swing on the swings. I've never been this happy before, it seems. And I've missed out on so much by marrying Alan. I missed the courtship, the shy handshakes, the first tender kisses and whispered words, the shared leisure time and laughter, the first real night. It's already twilight when we return to the village and stop near his house. He turns to me and looks into my eyes, then takes my hand and kisses it. "Have you changed your mind about coming in?" His house is cozy, bright rooms, a large kitchen, spacious living room, a wide hallway, lots of appliances. I bought wine, really good stuff. He takes wine, fruits, chocolate out of the fridge, be the mistress of my bachelor pad. At that moment, several cars pass by, and it seems to me they stop at Mason's house. "That's for me," he says. As always, bad timing. "I'm sorry, Stella, I'll be right back." He goes out, and I calmly continue cutting cheese, placing 2 glasses on the living room table. Then I return to the kitchen. Soon, the door opens, and footsteps sound behind me. "Mason, you." I turn around, still chewing on a piece of cheese, and then I freeze. Before me stands Alan. The most important thing right now is not to show my fear. Because that's exactly what he wants to see in my eyes. I don't know what's come over me, but I strangely feel calm. I know, fighting and proving something is useless, that's all. I only regret one thing, that I'll never see Larry again. And Mason? Maybe Alan's men grabbed him out there on the street and are holding him so he won't burst in here. They might have even beaten him. He probably wants to help me, but doesn't know how. And Alan looks attractive too, perfectly white lightweight suit, white shoes, and a white expensive cane. His hair is slicked back, and on his handsome face is a sadistic smirk. "What are you doing here?" I ask calmly. It seems he didn't expect such calmness from me. He walks around the room, sits on a chair, crosses his legs, twirls his cane in his hand, and raises an eyebrow. "I came for my wife, darling." "You didn't come for your wife," I reply. "You came for a personal punching bag, didn't you, Alan? But you liked it, didn't you? When you like something, you don't run away. Let go of the man you grabbed on the street. He's not guilty of anything." He smirks. "You'll be surprised. But that's for later. When I get home, punishment awaits you. I am not going anywhere. You can kill me here. Do you think I'll ask you? I have enough strength to grab you and put you in the car. This life of a poor woman doesn't suit you, Stella. You're meant to shine, by my side. That's not happening. How did you find me? It wasn't difficult. I've known where you've been for a while. Just wanted to see how far you'd go. All those runs by the lake, all those moonlit walks, your attachment to someone else's child, chatting with the local old ladies, and hard work in the greenhouses, everything was under my watchful eye, Stella. You're not made for all this. I'm not made for your beatings either. Once again, I am not a punching bag. You are my wife. You knew that in our family there has never been any divorce. Our clan was renowned for its family values, children, faithful wives, and impeccable reputation. It's all been built by my father, my grandfather, and I'm not going to let that crumble. The city, the society, my partners, all look up to me as the epitome of the perfect husband, and soon I'll be the epitome of the perfect father too. How so? I smirk. It's time for us, my dear wife, to think about a child. It will strengthen my standing with the important people to me, Stella. Approaching him, I say. I'd rather crush that child in the womb than bear one from you, Alan. Don't anger me, Stella, don't, it won't end well. Do you want me to repeat what I just told you? I ask him. Right now, it's important for me to provoke his emotions. But I'm not good at it. Among his friends, he won't touch me, afraid that one of them might spill the beans, and then the important society will see the true face of this monster. By the way, I say, how do you plan to present me to society? As far as I know, there are nasty rumors circulating in town about my disappearance. Well, that's easy, my beloved, he says again with that annoying smirk. Tomorrow, you'll go out with me as if nothing happened. And to the journalists, I'll simply say that the day before your disappearance, we had a little family quarrel, during which you got upset and decided to fly off to the Maldives to relax, intentionally not informing me, just to worry me. By the way, there's something you need to know before we leave, he says and makes a gesture towards the window. A few minutes later, the door opens, and Mason enters the room, completely unharmed, with no signs of violence on his face. It seems I'm starting to understand what's going on here, and angry tears well up in my eyes. He doesn't look at me but approaches Alan. Alan says, "Take the suitcase from Carl. You can count it if you want, don't worry, everything is in order. I keep my promises. How could I be so blind? Everyone warned me. How could I overlook the words about him being lazy and loving easy money, and not connect it with his dream of traveling? Mason's dreams have come true. Congratulations, Stella, you're a fool." They laughed at you, those two, and most importantly, Mason laughed at your budding feelings. Scoundrel. He turned out to be nothing but a pathetic scumbag. So, how does it feel? I ask him. To be a friend to this monster. I'm sorry, Stella, he says. You know, I have a dream. I really wanted it to come true. Well, I calmly tell him, then let me repay you the debt. For everything. I punch Mason in the nose with all my might. A stream of blood spurts from his nose and splatters directly onto Alan's pristine white suit. Mason clutches his nose, groans, and tries to move towards me. "Stop, stop!" Alan shouts, disgustingly shaking his suit. "Don't touch my wife. Only I have the right to do that." He slowly applauds, "Excellent punch, dear. Those boxing lessons really paid off. Do you want to try too?" I ask him, rubbing my fist. "You and I are unlikely to switch roles, but now you know everything." "Not everything. Mason was needed so I wouldn't run away from the village anymore, right?" "Why did you need that?" "You could have put an end to everything right away. I wanted to see how far you would go. I played with you like a cat with a mouse, and you didn't even realize it. Fool, did you really think I couldn't find you? Get used to the fact that I never lose, Stella." "All right," he stands up, "it's time to end this. You don't need to take anything with you." He approaches me, runs his finger across my face, chin, and pensively says, "Tomorrow we'll have a wonderful night, dear." He laughs, "You won't regret it, I promise." Suddenly, unexpectedly for him and for myself, I sharply pull my hand away and punch him in the nose, then add a blow to his cheek and chin. Caught off guard, he bends over in pain, covering his face with his hands. "Do you like that, Alan?" I ask. "You can't even answer me right now, because you're always afraid someone from your friends will see you hitting me and spill it to the press, right? So, do you like it?" "Weak," he mumbles, smiling through the pain, "weak for someone who used to hit the punching bag so eagerly. Mason filmed it on his phone and sent it to me. You were so erotic, babe. But that's not enough, dealing with me is beyond you. Have fun for now, and tomorrow night will be my turn." Understanding the hopelessness of my situation, I passionately, as a last resort, hit him with my fists on the shoulders, on the cheeks. "If only your father could see what a scumbag you've become," I shout. "He would kill you." Alan pushes me away. Suddenly, the door opens and the head of one of Alan's friends pops in. "Alan, listen." He starts, but Alan cuts him off. "Didn't they teach you to knock?" "Alan," the guy repeats, "there's some guy out there insisting on seeing you. He says he has information for you, very important." "Well, see what this information is." "He won't let us. Says he'll only show it to you. And, by the way, he claims you won't like it." Alan chuckles. "Now, this is getting interesting. What could he have that I wouldn't like?" "All right, go ahead, bring him in." A few minutes later, Ryan enters the house. To say I'm surprised would be an understatement. He's holding a black folder, looking very determined. "Who are you?" Alan asks arrogantly. Ryan hesitates before replying, sitting down on the other side of the round table, positioning himself directly across from Alan, and finally responds. "I have a business proposal for you." "Regarding what?" Alan inquires. "Regarding your wife." "Ha!" Alan laughs. "And what kind of proposal is that? You want to buy her from me?" "Well, you don't have enough money for that." "No," Ryan says, "I'm suggesting you leave her alone." "What?" Alan smirks. "Leave her alone. She's my wife, and I have no intention of leaving her alone at the request of some scoundrel. You'll have to do it, otherwise." "Otherwise what?" "Do you even know who you're talking to? Do you know how much money I have, what connections I have?" "No, you don't know that because if you did, you wouldn't dare to come here." "I know everything about you, Alan," Ryan replies, nodding towards the folder. "All the information is here. And if anything happens to me or Stella, this information will go to the police, and you won't be able to escape, despite all your connections." Alan smirks. "You're trying to scare me. You're not the first, you won't be the last. Your info is bluff and nonsense." He stands up and grabs my wrist, squeezing it painfully. "Let's go, darling. I won't stoop so low as to talk to him. Well, that's a pity, Ryan says. Alan, last year you received a sum of money from the state budget, with 6 zeros. Where is that sum? I accounted for it, Alan says, heading towards the door. No. Those receipts and expenditure orders are forged, it's been proven. Ryan taps the folder. Alan looks him in the eyes, then releases my wrist and slowly walks back to the table. He sits down on a chair, Ryan hands him the folder, and he slowly opens it, saying, I could have dealt with you very quickly, but I think my guys will do it better than me. No need to rush, Alan, if you want to stay out of jail. I told you that if anything happens to me or Stella, you'll go straight behind bars for all your schemes. You're bluffing. Not at all, Ryan takes out his phone. Right now, I have my friend on the line, the chief investigator in our district. He'll easily pass all the materials to the police. By the way, there are copies in the folder. Alan starts examining the papers from the folder, occasionally glancing at Ryan. A nice collection, isn't it, Alan? Ryan asks ironically. Corruption, money laundering through offshore accounts and dummy companies, fraudulent accounting. You're absolutely unworthy of your father's son. Your reputation will be ruined, so that you'll never be able to restore it. Partners will stop cooperating with you, acquaintances and friends will turn away, and the entire empire that your father has built so carefully and for so long will collapse. Is it worth it to take your wife and continue using her as a punching bag? Alan's face pales. Where did you get all this information? That's not important, but as you can see from the stamps on each page, the source is serious and reliable. You're not the only one with connections, Alan. Alan falls silent, continuing to examine the papers, while I think that he's not used to losing like this. Especially to some country boy. Well? Ryan asks. What do you say, Alan? To hell with it, he says decisively. I'm willing to take the risk. I have enough means to leave the country now, and my lawyer will stay to sell the business and property. I'm taking my wife and leaving. He grabs my wrist again. As soon as Stella leaves here with you, the materials will go straight to the police. You won't even make it to the airport, Alan. I think you're bluffing. You won't abandon your business, which your father built for many years. And besides, weren't you planning to run for election? Where did you hear that? Alan frowns. No one knows about that yet. You have to know where to look for information. But if you think that's not enough, he nods towards the folder, I have another ace up my sleeve. What now? For an election campaign, you need a flawless reputation. But I can destroy that flawlessness, Alan, with just a flick of my finger. Ryan takes a flash drive out of the breast pocket of his light-colored shirt. Tell your friends to bring the laptop from your car. You know about that too. Alan glares at him with malice. I told you, I know everything about you. When Alan gets the laptop, Ryan tells him. The flash drive is also a copy. You understand where the original is. Alan inserts it into the laptop, turns it on, and a video appears on the screen, showing our living room. Alan completely overlooked the fact that where he sometimes carried out his executions, there was a surveillance camera hanging, which is now clearly capturing the scene of the beating, and that recordings from this camera could become available to someone else. I close my eyes, I can't bear to watch this, these memories make me shiver all over. Well, what do you think? Ryan asks him. I think the press will be thrilled with such material, right, Alan? But how? Ryan interrupts him. How did I get these recordings? I know that this camera in the living room only outputs recordings to your laptop, not to the security service computer. And since you sometimes review these recordings, their storage period is quite long. Let's just say that a very kind person helped me get them. And that person is far away now, there's no point in looking for him, Alan. He helped me get into your room when you were at work, and you left the laptop at home. Damn! Alan exclaims. Surrounded by nothing but corrupt scum. So, what now, Alan? What are we going to do? These recordings have special value. Even without this folder, your career will rapidly decline as soon as the recordings are made public by the press. Alright, Alan says, let's make a deal. You give me all the materials, and I won't touch Stella. Oh, no, Ryan smirks. I don't trust you at all. The materials will stay with me for 7 years. If during that time you so much as approach her or me and my family, my friend and the police will react immediately. You'll lose everything, Alan. Your partners and friends are very demanding when it comes to family values and honesty, so they'll react instantly and harshly to something like this. Furthermore, I advise you to file for divorce from your wife as soon as possible and not to hinder it. You can file for divorce yourself, then your reputation in the eyes of your supporters will remain impeccable. Alan remains silent for a while. He understands that the best option for him now is to agree to all of Ryan's terms. I'll leave her with nothing. Alan says. Ryan wants to say something, but I cut in, I don't need anything from you. Just never to see or hear you again. No, hold on. Ryan says. Stella, you shouldn't refuse compensation for your lost health while this scumbag was beating you. He looks at Alan. A small compensation as alimony would be just right, wouldn't it, Alan? Fine, I'll pay, he says. That's good then. But listen, Alan, I warn you again, it'll be disastrous for you if you come near us. I understand. Alan hysterically shouts. My reputation and business are really more valuable to me than this cheap wife. So, we're settled. Ryan stands up, takes the flash drive and folder from the table, and takes me by the hand. Alan leaves the house, and soon we hear the sound of numerous cars leaving the village. I look at Ryan, feeling like crying. Understanding my state, he presses my head against his chest. Well, Stella, it's all over now. Come on, calm down. How could I believe Mason? Everyone told me he wasn't a good person. Yeah, speaking of Mason. We step onto the porch. Mason stands on the step, holding a suitcase containing $1.5 million, the price of my freedom. And this is for playing with emotions and for betrayal. Ryan hits him in the stomach so suddenly and sharply that he doesn't even have time to react. He falls at our feet. We step over his body and head towards the gate. I think, Stella, you'd better stay with us today. Larry's room is ready for you. Thank you, Ryan. On the way, I keep thanking Ryan for his help, saying that I don't know how I'll ever repay him for everything he's done for me. Stella, he stops, you don't owe me anything. You're a kind fairy to Larry, you saved his life. I had the opportunity to thank you for that, and I'm very glad everything worked out for us. As we enter Larry's room, Ryan gently strokes the sleeping child's head, then kisses his cheek. Sitting down on the plush carpet, we talk in whispers. Ryan, how did you manage to dig up such dirt on Alan? I have a friend in our town, a private detective. We don't see each other often, but he gladly agreed to come with me to help with the dirt on Alan. And another friend, the chief investigator of the police, so I had helpers from all sides. Ryan quietly chuckles. And who helped you get the video? Margaret, Ryan says. She's a very good woman. Her granddaughter is sick and needs treatment. I gave her money towards those savings she had. Yeah, I know about her granddaughter. We sit and talk for a long time. We don't feel like sleeping after the stress we've been through. You'd think the story should end on such a relieved note, but there were still some events waiting for me ahead. A period of depression sets in, a consequence of everything I've been through. A constant feeling of guilt for my life not turning out as planned never leaves me. I promised my mom that I'd be happy, but I couldn't keep that promise. My husband abused me, the man I liked turned out to be a scoundrel. I ended up a naive fool who didn't want to hear anything. For a while, I kept seeing Alan everywhere, with his crooked smirk and slicked back hair. And now his eyes haunt me in the night from the dark corners of the room, from the nighttime windows. I flinch every time a car passes by the windows or when I hear footsteps. I can't escape, can't hide from Alan. He's here, inside me and with me, and he'll catch up to me soon. I'm going insane. But Alan never actually showed up. I go to work, robotically doing everything that needs to be done, and in the evening, I return home and, collapsing onto the bed, try to fall asleep as quickly as possible. One evening, Ryan comes. He sits next to the bed, looking at my face, gray from inner turmoil. "Stella, this isn't right," he says. "Pull yourself together. Mom and Larry worries about you, I worry, everyone worries." "Ryan," hot tears suddenly stream down my cheeks, "do you realize that while you were saving me, I was with Mason? Who laughed at me and got paid by my husband for it? That doesn't matter, Stella. What matters is that it's all over now, and it's time for you to recover. It's not easy, but you're a strong person and you can do it. Listen, I'll send you the contact details for a domestic violence rehabilitation center on your phone. I strongly advise you to reach out to them, you need it now, otherwise you won't be able to get out of this on your own." I hesitate to do it for a very long time, but eventually, worn out by nightmares and my own condition, I make the call. They invite me to come next week. I leave the pets with Ryan and Larry. I spend a whole month at the center, working with a psychologist who tried to convey to me that I am not a victim but a person, entitled to respect. It was very difficult to change that in my mind, because when you get used to being treated like dirt almost every day, that's what you become. After a month at the center, I went to one of the women's monasteries, recommended by one of the local nurses. Here, I got what I had been missing so much, peace. I finally managed to sort myself out, feel and live the life I had before, understand and analyze my mistakes. I stayed at the monastery for a whole 5 long months. In January, I returned to Joytown. No sooner had I unpacked my things in the wardrobe than the door creaked open and Ida appeared on the threshold with a large basket in her hands. She hadn't changed a bit during this time. "My girl," she exclaimed, looking me over. "I'm so glad you're back." She warmly embraced me like a mother, then handed over the basket. It was full of groceries. "Ida, why so much?" I wondered. "Don't worry, there will be plenty of people to eat it all, guests are coming," she replied. "What guests?" I was surprised. Before she could answer, the door opened, Doug entered with his wife, followed by Lila and Greg. Everyone rushed to kiss and hug me, touching me to tears. I never thought I could mean so much to anyone. A little later, Dolores and Larry arrived, and right after them came Ryan. Dolores even shed tears, so happy to see me, and Larry didn't leave my side. Ryan was reserved, and sometimes I caught his scrutinizing gaze, feeling like there was a huge gap between us. And indeed there was, why shouldn't there be after what had happened? The evening passed very cheerfully, and I was especially touched by the fact that all these people came to support me, to be with me. I realized how much I missed them all this time. I told them about the rehabilitation center, about the monastery where I lived, about how I spent my time there, what I did. "You don't know the news," Ida whispered to me, "about Mason." "What happened?" "The police took him right off the plane at the airport. He was about to fly to Dubai, but instead, he went to jail," she chuckled. "Why?" "He tried to pay in the airport cafe with counterfeit bills. Apparently, it's Alan's doing. There were real bills on top of the suitcase, but deeper inside was a very good fake. He tried to blame everything on Alan, but the lawyers built such a defense line there that they couldn't find evidence connecting Mason to Alan. Work in the greenhouses started in the spring, and I had time to acclimatize and tidy up the house and garden. Ryan and I hardly saw each other, but Larry stuck to me like glue. Until the snow melted, we went sledding with him, skated on the frozen lake, and waited for spring to arrive. Soon I received notification that Alan had filed for divorce, and I sighed with relief. Ryan helped me find a lawyer through his friends who had helped him deal with Alan. The divorce surprisingly went smoothly. But the lawyer managed to ensure that my ex-husband paid me a small compensation. And what's going on between you? Ida would say, referring to Ryan and me. It's high time you two got together, you're such a wonderful couple. Ida, what are you talking about? I have absolutely no time for relationships right now. What about you? It's been almost a year since you ran away from that monster. Ida, I got in touch with Mason, even though everyone around me warned me about his true nature. Does Ryan really need such a frivolous person like me? He needs the one who loves his son, the one his son loves, do you understand? She said. When the work in the greenhouses began, I eagerly joined the shift. I had been waiting for this time. I already wanted to be busy with something, completely occupied with work, so as not to think or dwell on what had happened to me. Occasionally, I saw Ryan. He sometimes worked alongside everyone else. Sometimes I caught his gaze, as if he was asking me something or hesitating to speak. One day, Dolores invited me over. Since it was Saturday, Ryan took Larry and went with him to the city, to the amusement park. I gladly accepted the invitation from the elderly woman. She set the table, and we talked until evening. How I missed such evenings. Suddenly, Ryan and Larry arrived from the city. Dolores bustled around with dinner, everything was ready as always. Upon seeing me, Ryan said, "Stella. I'm glad to see you. We hardly ever meet at work, even though we work together." He smiled. "I didn't even notice that you're a redhead. Not dyeing your hair anymore?" "Yeah," I replied, smiling, "I'm not hiding from anyone anymore. I hope Alan isn't bothering you." "No, of course not. I'm depleted as an interest for him, thank God." "Well, I'll go, it's getting late." "Stella, stay for dinner," Larry said, not stopping, chatting about what he and Dad were doing in the city. They persuaded me to stay. Throughout dinner, Larry kept chatting non-stop about what he and Dad were doing in the city. After dinner, Ryan offered to walk me home, and as we walked, he smiled and said, "Stella, I want to invite you on a date." "On a date?" I frowned. "Sorry, Ryan, Stella, it's not exactly a regular date. I want to invite you tomorrow, fishing." "What?" I laughed. "Fishing? Have you ever been fishing before?" "No." "It sounds really interesting, though. So, can I take that as a yes?" "Yes." "Great, Larry and I will pick you up at 7 in the morning. Good night." All Sunday we spend together, the three of us, and it warms my heart like never before. Where were my eyes looking before? Why towards the charming Mason, instead of the simple Ryan? Ryan teaches me how to fish. Then we eat fragrant soup by the fire. After lunch, we lie on the sand and chat. The day passes very quickly, and soon the evening drapes the lake with its light cover, signaling it's time to head home. Larry fell asleep in the back seat as we drove back to the village. Ryan stops near my house, and we sit silently in his car, admiring the sunset. "Stella," Ryan looks at me, and I see his eyes glistening in the twilight. "Can I count on the possibility of—" "What? Is there ever a possibility of mutual feelings between us? Just tell me honestly, I understand everything. Maybe I'm not right for you." You mean?" I can't formulate the question, and it hangs in the silence. "And why do you think I did all this for you?" "I thought it was because of Larry." "No, Stella, not just because of Larry. As soon as you appeared in our lives, I immediately felt a kindred spirit in you. So I'm asking, is it possible that someday our destinies will merge?" "Perhaps, Ryan," I say, "but not now. Give me time, I need to figure myself out. I've made too many mistakes. And I need to acknowledge and let go of them, so I won't return to them." He nods, and I realize that something significant has happened between us. We seem to have grown closer, bridging the gap between us. Ryan courted me for a year and a half, never being intrusive, just patiently waiting and delighting me with small gestures of kindness. During this time, I finally found peace, I found myself. After a year and a half, our modest wedding took place. Not only Ryan and I were happy, Dolores cried tears of joy, and my ever-faithful friend Ida cried too. For my husband, I became the chief assistant in his business, and he consults with me on many matters. Larry and I have a wonderful relationship, the boy loves me, and I love him, we are best friends. I dream only of the day when he might call me that one word I long to hear from him. My husband and I lie, leaning against a tree, just relaxing in the shade. I often get tired now, because in 5 months I will become a mother. My head rests on my husband's lap, I gaze at the blue sky, and he occasionally leans down and kisses me. You know, Stella, I don't want to remind you, but I have a funny story about Alan. Yes. I'm surprised. And what's this story, and how did you find out? Well, sometimes Margaret and I catch up, and she still has connections with some of the girls from the house. So, one of the girls told her that Alan got married again. The bride is petite, slim, with a short haircut. Well, they lived together for 2 months, and then he decided to show her his true colors, just like he did with you. Poor girl. Another victim of Alan. Don't feel sorry for her too much. Maybe it's time to pity him. Why? I ask. Well, he wanted to hit her and managed to. The girl didn't tell him that she's a taekwondo master. So, she gave Alan such a beating that he didn't show up at work for a week. Are you serious right now? Absolutely. After that, she told him, if you want to fight, we'll fight by the rules, but I won't allow you to hit me for no reason. Now they occasionally, to release his aggression, have duels in the clearing in front of the house. Well, as you can imagine, Alan is no match for her, so she sometimes takes it easy on him, not hitting him with full force. I laugh heartily, imagining the scene. I laugh, not knowing yet that in a few years, all of Alan's schemes will be exposed, and he'll be locked up for a long time. Who set the wheels in motion remains unknown. All the reins of power in an attempt to save the business will be taken over by his new wife, who will ultimately leave him penniless. That's the bleak future awaiting Alan. But now, I don't care about him. I have a family, a husband, children. And now I can truly say that I am happy. I don't know if I deserve this happiness, but I will try to preserve it for a